This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Greeting to everybody. Welcome to Djuma Private Game Reserve, to your very own safari like this afternoon, with a very beautiful tree, a tree and a background of this scenery and a cloud. It's kind of a very nice open. It looks like it's going to be very much humid. And welcome aboard to your very own live safari from the African bush. Good afternoon, everyone again. Welcome back to Djuma Private Game Reserve, here where today it's a humid cloud, a light cloud, slightly some of the open sky, it's already appearing. But it's so much interesting that the bush, it's so quiet. This is how we're going to be start to drive this afternoon. My name is Andrew. On camera I have Simon this afternoon. This is how we're going to be taking you onto safari. So our plan is to go check the southern boundary, western boundary, see if there's any cats, especially leopards. There's going to be a search for a leopard this afternoon. Remember also to talk to us on WildEarth .tv, also on hashtag WildEarth and at FC, as well as young under the age kids questions at WildEarth.tv, as well as WildEarth.tv/explorer. For those of you who haven't been part of the show yet, you can sign up there. So this is how you can able to participate with us in terms of sharing all this knowledge with us in the bush. So I'm going to be carrying on driving southwards to see if there's anything would offer for us along this road. So we're traveling now. The road is called Zoe's Road, and the other guys, they will be working on the east. It's quite a few vehicles there already, and I decided to come this far, southwest part of the Djuma. Hopefully we get something out there for us. There's no sign of any leopard tracks or any sighting, especially in Djuma, since this morning or since yesterday. But you know, they do move around quite a lot, so surprises will be surprises that maybe one of them would be already crossed during the course of the day. And that means if we ever find these tracks, then we're going to stick with them and track until find them. So while we carrying on south, I'm going to be linking you back to Lauren with this hippo.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to a hot, sticky day here in Djuma Game Reserve. We almost had an incredible start for you, a black mamba, but it slithered away, or walked away, as Aubrey said, which is very sweet. My name is Lauren. I do have Johan on camera, and we're sitting here at Treehouse Dam. Oh, someone's showing off. He doesn't like it that the camera was on me. That's okay, we're back to you. Just let me reply to Aubrey. Copy. Thanks, Obs. Wouldn't that have been wonderful to see a black mamba? I haven't seen one in a long time. But sadly, we didn't manage to get it on time. So the resident hippo is back. Doesn't have his stick. Well, I'm sure his stick is somewhere. He will know where it is. He'll be submerged, I imagine. My plan for today is to find some spots, not in the form of a hyena, for once. But I'm going to try and find a leopard today. Sabui and cubs were on a property called Hoffman's. Don't worry if you don't know it, it's south. We're not able to traverse there, but they were moving northeast. So I'm going to just scratch around the south and hopefully find a leopard, or maybe 2 or 3. Come on, Mr. Hippo, we know you're not shy. They get very territorial over their water bodies, hippos, and our car, being positioned here on the dam wall, they act territorial towards us. He's saying, this is my dam. Don't come in with your car. I don't think it's a good idea that we go in with our car anyway, but that's what he's telling us. And then once he's done a territorial display, he starts to show off. Like a ginormous grey submarine. Rosalind, you're asking how... Oh, we're getting a helicopter. Sorry, that is very entertaining. That is yes, he's defecating, but he is as a territorial display. So when they do that, he's also saying, this is mine. I'm going to helicopter spin my tail and waft my feces all over the dam. So Rosalind, they're normally about 1.5 meters shoulder height, which is really not that tall, but of course they're extremely heavy mammals. Males normally come in at anywhere between 2,000 to 3,000 kilograms, and a female on average around 1,500 kilograms. So females can sometimes be half the male. If it's a big, huge bull at 3,000 kilograms, a female can be half of that. So it's really drastically different, and that's why a lot of females can drown during mating, because the male completely overpowers her. He obviously climbs onto her back and ends up pushing her down. And if he pushes her down for too long, she'll drown. Now, he doesn't mean it, so he's trying to mate with her. But because he's so big and so heavy, they have to mate in the water. They couldn't do it on land. And sometimes he ends up drowning her, which is rather sad. So that's how big hippos are. With enormous muzzles. Phenomenal amount of power behind their sort of jaws. Okay, so I'm going to bumble on south now. Wish me luck. I hope I find my spots. But I believe Deidre at Tswalu already has her spots.
Good afternoon and welcome to Tswalu. We've got the 2 boys there in the shade. I'm Deidre, and on camera with me today, still Davy. I actually did nearly throw him off just now. Hit one of our mitre drains a little bit too hard, and Davy and everything on the vehicle did take a little bit of what you caught some air, should we say? So the boys from this morning, all they have done is literally moved about 2 to 3 meters each, just following the shade around. So as the shade is rotated around, as the sun has moved across to the west, they've just decided that they're staying in the shade. You can see panting quite heavily. They are quite hot. I think we're sitting at about 32 degrees today, and still quite reasonable humidity with about a 30% chance of rain. Maybe we're lucky. I think we're going to avoid the clouds today. We should be good to go, and maybe we'll have some rain a little bit later. Oh, yawning is always a good sign. So I very much doubt that they're thinking about doing anything active in at least the next 2 hours. It's still too hot to move. They might think about heading towards the waterhole. That's where they came from. They went and they drank water yesterday. Oh, that's perfect. We might get some head rubbing, some greeting. Oh, good stretch. Nice stretch.
It's like I want walk just for like one game.
Sorry about that, we haven't moved a muscle. I was listening to some updates about what is going on in the area. So we're still at Treehouse Dam. Don't quite know what happened to Tswalu. I believe Tandy has crossed as well. I don't know if she is alone or... Oh, we've got the weavers, Johan. Perfect. If we just go over here at about 11 o'clock, maybe 10:30, you'll see a tree and there's a weaver. I don't know what species. It could be the village or the masked. I can't see from here. We're too far away. But you can see there's a bright yellow bird on the tree. Look at that. I wonder why they've chosen this tree. It's very, very common for them to build their nests above water. It's safe from predators. Look at that perfect nest. It's just so beautiful. It's the festive season after all. Looks like little Christmas baubles. But this is not above water. It's above a drainage line. But it's not above water, which is quite unusual, I must say. So yes, let's bumble on because there's a... I was going to say a rumour, that's not the correct word. But they thought that Tandy has crossed over. So let's go and check and see if we can find any signs of Miss Tandy and Sabui. It's in the same sort of area, so we'll check everywhere and see if we can find any leopards for this afternoon. I think I've spent a lot of time with my hyena, so it's time to catch up with all the leopards in the area. We could do some butterflying today as well. If we see any butterflies, we're going to stop for them. My butterfly of the day has, well, grinded to a halt. That's also what we're going to do today. New plan. Okay, so I'm going to try and find all of these things I just told you about, and for now we're going to send you across to Andrew.
Great, everyone. So we just come across these little bit of group of Warthog, but they weren't static for us. They kind of like run away. It's because maybe they have their babies with them. So this is far the distance we're trying to keep, but they ran away. So I'm going to try another closer look there if there is any visual anymore. But our Warthog, they very much sometimes relax when they want to, but sometimes their behavior can sometimes change if they experience something differently during the course of the day, especially with their babies. And this baby weren't able to run fast enough, and they get hunted by leopard most. And then it's cool that they're always aware of the situation and sticking very close to the very much slowly open area. So we're going to try again just to see if we can get through this bush to have another look at them again. No, they're moving. So there's another gap in front. We'll try again. Warthog, they are animals that always stick in a group, especially females, dominated by males, and they are kind of a very much seasonal breeder, which is September and November. From there, this time of the year, they also breed, but I think we got a visual of one, but maybe it can't be very good for everyone. We're just going to try, see if we'll reverse and get another look. So Simon is going to try go through this wood. Eventually we have kind of very much solo weight of movement of this creature. And there they are. So yes, most animals, they have a different behavior where some are very comfortable with presence of company, some not. this probably come from where they are, how they've been treated. Sometimes, or usually, they never get close to any vehicles. And then you mainly see them run away immediately. And then you know that just before you approach closer. So they really not territorial. Males are not territorial. But you do see sometimes 3 or 2 male at the same time. But it works on whoever's dominant. Have a presence of always check the status on these females to see if any female that comes on hit, and then he will be in charge of the whole mating. They always give birth into this hole of this mound which dug by Wahlberg, and they come to reactivate as a den site for them. And this is where they sleep. They sleep in these mounds. The mound that we have around here, it's quite a lot of them. And very good work that done by this Wahlberg, which afterwards the hole is actually useful for anybody who want to hide in there. So I'm going to carry on. Our Warthog is gone. I don't think we're going to have another look at them again. So we still haven't reached the boundaries, so we're going there now. While I'm doing that, I'm going to be linking you back to DJ with the cheetah.
So we don't quite know what happened there. But they didn't move far, fortunately. They literally just decided to go into that new shady patch and both flopped down sleeping. So that is still the scenario for this afternoon, is that they'll probably will carry on sleeping for indefinitely, I would say at this stage, at least another hour or 2, because it's still very, very hot. So for those of you that are joining us on WildEarth, please ask your questions at #WildEarth and put at FC in front. And these, for those that are first-time viewers, welcome. And these are 2 brothers. With cheetah in general, when you find brothers together, what we would call a coalition, that's the correct term for male cheetah, is that they would have been born in the same litter at the same time. There are times where a cheetah sort of acts in the right way and actually almost gets adopted by other male cheetah, but that's almost a self-preservation thing. So he'd rather act submissive instead of being killed by 2 or 3 others, and then sometimes he joins them. So that has also happened in the past before. So you can see how well their spots work for their camouflage, now that that cheetah's put his head flat. If it wasn't for the flicking of the tail, you probably would walk right past them. You wouldn't even see them. So it does work quite well for them. And I have something else with spots. Look, Davy, it's a leopard. Tortoise. So we've just got a piece of it, but we found this piece and we thought we have to show you because it's absolutely stunning. So something else that relies on spots for camouflage. This is what we would call the tail piece of the tortoise, but I'm going to turn it around a few times. I just want to show you some really interesting things with the tortoise, courtesy of wherever we found it. We actually found it in this area this morning, but you can actually see how the bone, very, very jagged edges, and the bony plates all fit together to make the shell. So you couldn't have a solid bone because otherwise you wouldn't be able to have that curve that they need in the shell. And then I'm going to just tilt it a little bit. Probably this way is quite nice. And you can see how those jagged edges would be like teeth that fit into each other. And then this, I want to tilt it again this way. You can see this jagged plate. It's actually smaller. And then if I turn it over, you can see how big this area is. We call it a scoot But in this situation, it's actually nice to almost call it like a roof tile, and you can actually see how it actually covers completely over those joints. You can age a tortoise by having a look at the rings, so you can have good seasons, bad seasons.
Sorry about that, everyone. So we're checking the southern boundary now, heading west, and nothing really crossed. There was an update of that Thandi. I think she was seen during the course of the day crossing into Torchwood, and then I'm sure Lauren, she will be following up there, and the other guide as well, that they will be mobile in that area. They will keep us updated, and possibly if she ever found, and of course it will be very good for everyone, for me as well, and to put on a show for everyone to have a look. And it's actually sometimes this weather like this, sometimes animals that are very much, they can move in and out of the area, attracted by the strategies that they have. Unless if it's too much hot, of course, then they need to be in a shade until it's cooled off again. So we're checking this boundary. If nothing happened then we're probably going to find out about the lionesses that we saw this morning going into Torchwood, if there's a sighting there happening. And then we're eventually going to be end up there and visit them. But I'm sure wherever they are right now, they're probably just taking it easy, lying down, unless if they succeed during the course of the day, manage to kill any prey species out there. And it's actually the ground itself. It's so cool that, we had a rain, and it's nothing really difficult for us in terms of see the new tracks or older tracks. So while we continue driving, checking this boundary, I'm going to be linking you back to Lauren again.
That's true, Andrew. It's getting drier. The ground is getting drier, which makes it easier for us. But one animal that's not so easy to spot is what we have here, the tree agama. Now, this jackalberry at Twin Dams is the jackalberry that I always see, the males with the bright blue head. It's the exact same species. This is just a female. The females don't need to advertise. They don't need to be territorial. They don't need to display. So they don't have this fantastically blue head that says, hey, gals, look at me. I'm so blue. I was going to sing a song there, but I will not. So this is a female. I'm looking around. I can't see the male, but I would imagine he's somewhere. I think this particular tree is his territory. And he's very aggressive. He's very territorial. The males will bite. They'll also use their extremely powerful tails to whack one another, thump one another. And the tails are very, very powerful, so you can only imagine how that would hurt. They also do a lot of advertising to get the ladies. They bob their head up and down, which is quite a common feature in reptiles, to say, hey, I'm the one for you. But the females, I hate to say it, but they're almost quite nondescript. It's better for them to be camouflage. So you've got to think of the benefits for the species and then the benefits for the different sexes. And it's far more beneficial for a female to just blend into the background, not attract any unwanted attention. Oh, there's an ant risking its life. Oh, I don't think she's hungry. Now, her head is quite tricky to see. She's tinged blue. She does have a sort of greenish blue coloration, but nothing like the males. She wants to blend in. And if you don't know what you're looking for, you would absolutely drive past that. Just very, very camouflage. Whereas the males risk that for mating opportunities. It's far more beneficial for them to get more ladies and to be visible to predators. It's a trade-off. There's always trade-offs. Rory and Rob, you're saying what great camouflage. Yes, it's perfect. Johan can zoom out for us a little bit and you'll see how remarkably well this female just blends in to the jackalberry. You see, the further and further we get away, you can almost not see her now. Look at that. She's beautiful. She's very similar to the bearded dragon I used to have, called Floyd Mayweather. Yes. Oh, we've got an elephant coming down to the water hole. Elephants. Yay, they've got their water walk on. Okay, let me reposition. How am I going to position for this? I haven't seen elephants since coming back. Oh, there's lots of them. They're all streaming down. Okay. You know what? I'm just going to position here at this now. They're all coming this way, so I'm not going to block their trajectory or their sort of movements. And then we're just going to see them all streaming. I'm just going to let people on the radio know. Hello, elephants. So wonderful to see you. That's a water walk if I've ever seen one. That's what I look like when I go to the beach. I've got my water walk on. Large herds of elephants coming to drink at Twin Dams. Elephants are very fussy about water. They're really fussy drinkers. They won't drink dirty water. If they come to a water body, a dam or a pan or a puddle, and it's really dirty or it's filled with algae, lots of algal blooms, they'd actually rather just dig using both their trunk and their feet at the side of the water hole to get the underground water than drink from a dirty puddle. Look at that little one. How lovely. There's a lot more coming as well. There's a naughty teenager here checking us out. Yes, we see you. You're hard to miss. Jack, you're hoping for an elephant pool party. Wouldn't that be wonderful? I'm not entirely sure it's going to happen, but I'm also hoping. It would be so wonderful to see that, but I think they're just here to drink. I could be wrong, though. Animals often prove us wrong out here. We say one thing and the animal does the other. You see how they pull up the water with their trunk and then pour it into their mouths, like a straw. The bigger the elephant, the bigger the trunk, the larger the volume of water that they can pull up at one time. Oh, Rachie, you are asking a very big question. You're asking about elephant communication. So Like all highly social mammals, they're going to have a well-developed system of communication. Because you're social, you depend on your herd or your clan or your pack or your pride, so you have to communicate. Now that can be vocal, it can be chemical, and it can be through other senses like vibration. So there's so many different ways of non-verbal and verbal communication in all species across the board. But if you're social, you're going to have a system in place. And elephants make use of all their senses. They've got really good hearing, they've got really good sense of smell. They have got vision, it's not their best sense. And of course they touch. They communicate through touch when they're in close proximity. But you're asking about long distance. And normally they'll use sort of vibrations. They can detect vibrations of elephants, normally their own herd, kilometers and kilometers away. Oh, hello. We've got more coming to join. And the tip of an elephant's trunk, as well as on their feet, they have really special cells. And they're mechanoreceptor cells, and they're actually called Pacinian corpuscles. But I don't really like that word. It doesn't sound nice on my tongue. And what they do is, using a special motion, the Brownian motion, that baby's tiny. They can detect vibrations. And therefore, they're able to communicate over really, really large distances. And you can find these specialized mechanoreceptors in other mammals, but they're really... Oh, this is such a young Ellie. Hello. I don't think all of these elephants are from the same herd. Okay, I've got all the elephants just about to meet in front of me, so I'm going to finish answering your question in just a moment. I got through half of it. What happened there? Two separate groups came together, but it was warm. It was a tender interaction. They touched trunks, they said hello, and now they're going separate ways. So it's either a large herd, and these are the stragglers, or I think it could be two kinship groups that know each other. Two herds that stemmed from the one herd, maybe got too large. Oh, look at, there's the little one. Oh my goodness, you're tiny. You're so tiny. Wow. That was a nice interaction. There was nothing aggressive about that. So just to quickly answer your question, they detect vibrations on the floor. That's why you'll normally find an elephant with only its tips of its toes resting on the ground. It'll raise one leg up, put its tippy toes on the ground like a ballerina, but definitely not a slim, elegant ballerina. And they also sort of use different frequencies in their vocalization. So to give you an example, a human male, like Johan here, his speech will sort of fluctuate around the 100 to 110 hertz mark. A female, like myself, will fluctuate around 200 to 220 hertz. A child, for example, a young child will be around 300 hertz. Now, among elephants, a male rumble averages in at a minimum 12 hertz. So that's more than 3 octaves below a man's voice, a human man. And the female of an elephant is normally just marginally higher. I think it's around 13, 14. So they sort of vocalize at very low frequencies that the human ear cannot detect. That's another way for them to communicate, and we just are not aware of it. So very sort of low frequency vocalizations and through vibrations. Wow, that was very unexpected. Okay, now I think I'm just going to stay here and let the elephants move off, not to block their path, but we're going to send you guys across to Andrew and some Impala.
Good luck, Lauren. So we now spending time here also with looks like a whole bunch of group of male impalas here, which they are very chill, even though they're in a very dense bush at the moment. So which means if anything you hunt them, whatever it is, or whatever it's a leopard, mainly leopard would hunt them in its thicket or lines. And sometimes, predators find quite easy to ambush them or use this advantage of trees to get closer and closer to them. But it's cool that once they realize it's not safe, they would also move out of the area by either running away, change place to another when you do that. So also, they have a good very sense of smell and hearing as well. As you can see, this one feed, but at the same time looking around. What we got back there, we saw a visual of also elephants crossing, but way off. There it is. Looks like a whole bunch of them there. Remember, we actually right here, as you can see, all power lines setting up there. So we're on a western. Oh, there's another young baby elephant also in this herd. So they're crossing their western boundary, heading west. So I'm going to check there if they're heading into some Bambile where I can able to follow them. It will be cool also to see witnesses how young these elephants are there. So while I'm moving on, I'm going to leave this Impala, getting close to this elephant. I'm going to be sending you back to Mike as well.
What you're looking at right over there is a Wahlberg's eagle that's just landed on its nest, a very large nest, probably one that it's visited year after year for a long time. I'm not sure how long, who knows really, but nonetheless a beautiful bird. Hi everyone, my name is Mike and you're joining me and Seb behind the camera at Ecotraining's Pridelands Conservancy, where we are enjoying a lull in the wet weather and a quiet, windless afternoon. It's very beautiful. It's probably, 26, 27 degrees. It's quite warm. Not cold at all. And we're not so far from Leopard Dam. Just waiting to see if anything comes around here. We could hear this Wahlberg's eagle calling quite a lot. We decided to come and check if it was near its nest. And as you see, it is. We just saw it landing as we arrived. It was coming into its nest. So I'm not sure if there are youngsters in that nest or if this is a youngster that's fledged and is hanging around. Because they've been here for a couple of months now, the Wahlberg's eagles. You can tell this is a Wahlberg's eagle because of that tiny little bit of a crest that you can see on the back of his head. As it turns around, you see it's got oh, there it flies. Oh no, it's just trying to get a bit more of a vantage point. So it's got a little bit of a crest on the top of its head, and it's got a small beak, and it's a rather small bird as well. It's not a massive eagle. It's not as big as something like a brown snake eagle or a martial eagle, which is huge, and it's got dark eyes. So it's quite an easily identifiable eagle. It's one of my favorite of the birds of prey. And this Wahlberg's eagle has probably flown down from central West Africa around about September, and it's been hanging around in this exact spot, catching things like the Egyptian geese goslings, any small birds that might be around, as well as lots of insects and maybe even small mammals like mice and scrub hares and that kind of stuff. It's not so big and powerful. It won't be attacking anything like a Impala lambs, like a martial eagle might do, but a powerful predator nonetheless. It's one of the smallest, so it has to be quite wary. I've seen large eagles try and catch these birds, and even actually there's some Varro's eagle owls living around here, which could kill them at night. Lolly, these birds have nests only here in southern Africa. So this bird that you're seeing now, if it's one of the parents or adults, this is a nest that they probably would have used for as many years as they've been breeding. So they come down here early in our spring, they arrive and they set up, they add a few sticks to the nest, they clean it out, they do some spring cleaning, and then they lay their eggs and they hatch them and then fledge their chicks, and then they'll fly back around about April, I think. It could be April, maybe a bit earlier, back to Central and West Africa, where they spend the southern African winter. They stay in Central and West Africa during our winter, where it's least warmer and there's more food for them. So that's what migration is. They don't make nests, they don't breed back in Central Africa, they only breed down here in Southern Africa, as far as I'm aware. And so they only make nests down here. Wouldn't make sense for them to make a nest. They can just roost. Roosting is when they just sit up in a tree at night and stay very still, and they don't need a nest to roost or to sleep. They only use the nest for the chick to raise their eggs. So this one right now is looking all over the place. It keeps turning its head and looking around. I wonder if it is one of the youngsters, maybe waiting for an adult to come back and feed it. Because if the egg was laid much earlier, and it's been a few months since they've been here, it could very well be a young adult, but I'm not sure. From this distance, it's difficult to tell, and we haven't seen other birds. Just waiting to see. But yes, as I was saying, the Varro's eagle owls sometimes kill these large birds, even at night. Pal 1, females and males, as far as I'm aware, both build the nest together, and they both look after the chicks. They're monogamous, which is quite an awesome thing that many large birds do, where they pair, especially birds that migrate. They pair for life, and so this Wahlberg's eagle will most likely stay with its partner, if it's one of the adults, for its whole life, or at the very least for the whole season. And I suspect it's for life, because they always come to the same nest to breed every year. And so male and female, I think, both will help to build the nest, and they'll both feed the chick. I don't know whether it's the male or the female that does most of the incubating, which is sitting on the nest to keep the eggs warm and the chicks safe. With most birds, it's usually the female that spends more time doing it. Generally speaking, the females are more camouflaged. The eagles are, well, they all look the same, but with many birds, the males are bright and colorful, which is to attract the female, and the females are usually much more drab, because of course they sit on the nest, and they have to be camouflaged so they don't give away their locations to anything that might want to eat their chicks or eggs, which is really cool. Not that many things will catch these Wahlberg's eagles' chicks. They're very, very high up in the tree, and the eagle itself has got a sharp bill and talons and a big wingspan that can, attack most things. Like if monkeys tried to go up there to steal the eggs, they would definitely chase the monkeys off, maybe even baboons. Although I have seen before baboons raiding a Wahlberg's eagle's nest when they were not there, which was very sad, because you imagine they put a lot of effort into building that big nest over many years. Those particular Wahlberg's eagles actually then went and made a new nest in a tree not so far away, but a different tree, because they obviously decided that this nest, now that it was discovered and the baboons were eating its eggs, that they'll rather make one somewhere else that might be a bit safer. So it was good. And it happened early in the season. I'm not sure if it would have had time to lay eggs again, but one would hope that it would. Rosalind, there are a lot. I can't tell you the number off the top of my head. I'd have to look through my bird book. But in the world, there are 10,000 approximately different species of birds. That is a lot. Here in South Africa, we have roughly 10% of those bird species. We've got almost 1,000 bird species that can be found here just in South Africa, or rather, I should say Southern Africa. Many of those can be found here in South Africa. And of those species, I'd have to check my book. I don't want to just speculate, but it's probably like 30 different species of birds of prey. There's many. Here at Pride Lands, the ones we see regularly are Wahlberg's eagles, Marshall eagles that are much larger, the 3 snake eagles, that's Battalier, black-chested and brown snake eagle, and we see maybe African harrier hawk, African hawk eagles. We probably see about 15 species here in Pride Lands fairly regularly, some of those ranging from the very largest, like Marshall eagles and African fish eagles, down to the very smallest ones, which are the little sparrowhawk, of which we've got one nesting in our camp at Ndlovu Dam, at the eco-training camp. It's very funny to watch, actually. This eagle will protect its nest quite ferociously, but the smaller ones do exactly the same thing. They'll protect their nests from anything else like lizards. So it's really, really fun to watch. But in the meantime, let's send you over to Andrew.
Thanks, Mike. So the elephants that we saw in the way far distances, we managed to relocate them, but the rest of the herd have actually vanished into very thicket. So only a bull that is standing right here next to us is probably get attracted there with the very new shoots of grasses, soft grasses. And you can tell that it looks like they've been in a mud wallow somewhere around here. And the decent water hole is far from here, so it's probably one of those puddle of the water that they create themselves during their lives out here, which sometimes that can hold this amount of water, and every time it rains, the water is stuck there for a few weeks. And these type of elephants, they're playful sometimes. When they get into the water, more likely to get to swim if it's the weather allows them, or spread up with the mud right on their body. It's a lot of rankles or folders in this skin. Beach goat, yeah, they use their trunk to do that. So they suck mud or water through their trunk, where the trunk at the same time can hold, for the big elephant, can hold amount of water is about sometimes 16 to 18 liters of mud or water at the same time. And they has to use a lot of high pressure of the air to blow these mud out of this 2-hole trunk they have. So this is how they manage to wet their body, whole part of their body. This young bull elephant, I'll put him around maybe nearly 20 years, somewhere there. Over 20 years. He's still following far distance from the herd. It's probably that's why this herd, they're not actually feeling very comfortable, so they're always pushing away. This is what happened when they have these type of young males, where they push them so hard and they don't really want to stay with the young males like this anymore. I'm going to see if we can get another look at them there. What we saw from the distance, they have also a few young ones, this group of breeding herd. I'm sure we'll get luck see them if we get an open space here where they're heading into. It's quite easy for them to be able to move around here in and out of this area because they're not really territorial animal. So they can move wherever they want. So, right, I'm not going to be standing here for long, so I'm going to be linking you back to Mike with his Ellie again while I'm continuing checking the western boundary to the north.
And we are with other Ellies somewhere else, back here at Pride Lands, where when we left the Wahlberg's Eagle's Nest, we heard a little bit of splish-splashing. We came back to Leopard Dam and found a whole breeding herd, or a herd of elephants, including some youngsters, drinking where we were parked just moments before, which is super fantastic. I was just saying, so nice to be back on Pride Lands. I've been away at one of the other eco-training camps for a while, and it's always fun to be back in Pride Lands because there's so many elephants. And they are really great to watch. And these ones here just sating their thirst with this rather muddy water. Actually, the dam is filled up quite a bit, and so there's a lot of muddiness in the water. But when you're an elephant, you've got quite a tough digestive system. So muddy water doesn't really affect you. If I was to drink that water, probably wouldn't feel so well the next day. But elephants are pretty tough. This one here is blowing bubbles. It's always fun to blow bubbles when you've got a trunk. Splish-splashing around, you see that? That's just playful, I think, but often you'll see elephants doing stuff like that in order to get rid of little floaty bits on the top of the water. They're quite fussy, elephants are. They don't like to drink water if there's lots of floaty bits everywhere, so they might, splash around in the water just to try and get rid of them, and then drink the water that's maybe a bit cleaner. You can see these elephants not flapping their ears, as I mentioned before. It's fairly cool today, so they don't have to flap to cool down. Poor elephants drink a lot of water. Now, it also depends on the size of the elephants, and they may not drink every day. If they can't get to water, they will have to not drink, although it wouldn't be very comfortable for them. But I think an elephant might drink anywhere between 100 and 150 liters of water per day. It all depends on the size. A baby elephant might drink a lot less. A very big elephant might drink more. But let's call it up. I worked it out at about 5%. I did a bunch of maths for all sorts of different animals when I read about how much water they drink. It works out to be about 5% of their body weight in water they have to drink. So let's work it out. If an elephant is 4 tons, that's 4,000 kilograms. 10% would be 400. So 5% would be about 200. So a very big elephant, a 4-ton elephant, might drink 200 liters of water, potentially, in a day. On a cold day like this, it might not so much. Look at that elephant. It's interesting. She's got her ears open. They were folded forward like that. She was trying to catch a sound, maybe something else. Maybe some more elephants are coming down to the waterhole that we can't hear. It is often the case that when one elephant herd comes down, many others start to follow. I said it was a she. I think it's a she. It looks like it's got quite an angular forehead. Yeah, I think it's a female. Yeah, it's a female. Is it a female? Ooh, it's a tough one. From this distance. So he said, oh, it got a fright. Something in the water gave it a fright. I don't know if you saw that. I wonder if it stepped on a stick or something. It seemed to not like whatever just happened. I actually think that's a male. It's difficult to tell from this distance. Normally the angular forehead gives it away. Big angular forehead, and with the females, they'll usually, if they're that size, will have mammary glands that are swollen from having given birth at least at some point in its life. The one to the right there looks like it could be a female just because the tusks are super skinny. That's not always the case. Sometimes females can have thicker tusks. Sometimes they can have thinner tusks. And we'll keep watching and we'll figure out exactly what is the makeup of this group of elephants. In the meantime, we'll send you over to Lauren with another dam.
Oh, it's really not easy with elephants to tell the sexes. It can be very difficult, especially when they're younger. But Waterbuck, on the other hand, is very easy. You just look at the absence of horns. The females are much smaller as well. They can be anywhere between about 80 to 100 kilograms lighter. So a lot more petite. Now we've came to Chitwa. It's lovely to be at Chitwa again. And as usual, there's a gallon of Waterbuck hanging around. always slightly nervous when they're around water. They know that it leaves them very exposed, very vulnerable. Oh, excuse you, hippo. And of course, the dogs can come out of anywhere and go for these waterbuck. And they do. They're all going to move away now. I actually think they've already been for a drink. But Chitwa Waterhole in particular is the land of the crocs. And they know that. They know as soon as they bend down to drink water, they're vulnerable. Anything can sneak up behind them. Isn't that lovely? The Defasa waterbuck up in the Masai Mara are gorgeous, but disappointing when you see them and there's no bum circle. And off they go. So I'll give you a view of the rest of the dam. Chitwa Dam. No longer the largest water body that we frequent now that we can traverse Buffelshoek, but it's still extremely large. It's still very full. I think there's a possibility Sabui went further down south, and therefore I think I'm going to focus my attention on looking for the female leopard. It's either Tandy or Kutrava that crossed into Torchwood. If we just look at that tree sticking out in the middle, Johan, with all the nests, there's actually a weaver inside. You see all the weavers' nests hanging there? Yep, if you go closely, there's some weavers there. And Paul, you're asking where do hippos sleep? That's exactly what they're doing right now. There you go, you see them? You can see 1, 2, hiding in there. There we go. And it's not really sleeping as we sleep, but they're resting in the water during the day. Resting and digesting. It's nighttime that they're active, it's nighttime that they forage. So during the day, they're in the water. Look, how lovely is it to see the weavers reusing their nests here? Summer's a very busy time for the weavers. It's all about getting as many ladies as you can possibly get. They're not monogamous in any way, shape or form, especially for birds. It's all about advertising, being the brightest, being the loudest, being the proudest, and continuing on your bloodline as much as you can, fertilizing as many eggs as you can. I think these ones might be the southern masked. But obviously it's a bit of a long-distance visual. JD, I'm not sure what you mean by that. If you're referring to the weavers, or at least the masked weavers, they construct their own nests and they normally monitor them. I think that's what you mean. Lots of males competing. I gotcha. And they normally stay in that area. So when you spend a long time watching a tree that's got all these weavers in it, that's very, very active, the males vocalize and they will chase other males off. But you're right, other males can sneak in and try to steal a nest, but normally they're chased off. Males will always cheat when it comes to weavers. If a female chooses a beautiful looking nest with all its craftsmanship, perfect, and there's no male there defending it, then yes, another male could easily swoop in, but they do tend to stick to their own handiwork. They're very proud of it. It can take them up to 12 hours, not more, to construct their own nest using their tiny little beaks to weave. It's incredible. So they normally do defend their little nests until there's a female safely inside. Okay, so I think we're going to leave Chitwa now, bumble into Torchwood and see if we can found at least some spots, but we're going to send you across to Mike and his elephants.
Oops, that was very loud. My radio just went off there. As you can see, we've got a very sleepy elephant. So they had a bit of a drink. This one is now drunk on all the mud. Decided to sleep it off. Maybe they had a party last night. Who knows? But actually what's there is a big termite mound, or an old termite mound. It's quite a nice place to go and rest, and because it's got a bit of an angled side, it's a bit easier for them to get up. Oh, that looks so comfy. It's not often that you get to see this view of an elephant, and it's a young male elephant. Yeah, well, I mean, young male, they definitely had a party. This is a teenager. You know what they do. That's right, we caught you in a moment there. Oh, look how difficult it is to get up. See how it had to use its knees to get up. Oh, the whole herd is on the move. So some of these are young males, probably not far from being kicked out of the herd. A lot of youngsters there, very young elephants as well. That one probably under 3 years old, no tusks at all showing. And now we didn't hear a single thing, but they're all starting to move off together. So undoubtedly the matriarch must have said, okay everyone, time to pack it up. So this is a very big female walking at the back here. This elephant here might have said, right, it's time to move on, let's keep moving, follow, auntie or whatever, which is quite amazing. They communicate with very low frequencies that we sometimes can't even hear. Lisa, the biggest elephant that I've seen is, I didn't actually see, let's talk about the one I have seen, is Kumo. Kumo, the elephant bull here on Pride Lands, is probably one of the biggest elephants I've seen in a long time. And we actually saw one of the elephants that hangs around with him often, or rather Seb saw him. When was it, Seb? A couple days ago?
It was last night, actually. We were not live with Sabi.
Yeah. So last night, on the way back from the drive, they saw Limpy, that elephant bull. He's not very big, but he always hangs around with Kumo, or at least he used to. And so we haven't seen them for a few months, and I've seen glimpses of Kumo here and there. So I'm hoping he's back in the area after a little bit of an adventure, and then you'll all get to see how big this elephant is. He towers above that female walking at the back there, and often comes very close to us in the vehicle, and it's just monstrously huge, but very well-mannered, mild-tempered elephant. So hopefully you'll get to see it. He probably weighs, 6 to 7 tons, or maybe a bit less. I mean, I think there are probably a lot bigger elephants. There are probably elephants that are larger, but it's just, it's not often that we get to see very, very big elephants. I think the very biggest elephant that was ever recorded was from Angola. Which, of course, there's not too many elephants left in Angola. They have been dealing with civil wars and all sorts of stuff. But anyway, the elephant there was weighing 11 tons. Can you imagine 11 tons? Almost twice as heavy as probably some of the heaviest elephants that are alive today. So that's a very big elephant. And elephants keep growing their whole life. So I think Kumo is probably in his mid-40s, but he's probably going to grow to about his mid-60s. In this area, they might get to 60 years old, something like that. And so he's got potentially 20 more years to grow. So imagine if he weighs 5 or 6 tons now, how much he could weigh in 20 years, much larger. So hopefully we'll get to see Kumo again. You can see just how big he is. He's a very cool elephant. We always like to see him. We recognize him because he's got a scar on his trunk, right between his tusks. And he's named because he was an elephant followed by researchers for a long while. That's how we know who he is. And as you can see, that elephant has moved off now. Those elephants. KG, I love this dam because it's got lots of vegetation overhanging it. It means there's a lot of bird life. A lot of birds can use these low-hanging branches to sit and drink. It brings in all sorts of things like kingfishers, waxbills, cuckoos, kukels, all sorts of cool birds, and also water birds, of course. There's a big muddy patch off to our left, which you can't see from here. And also because it's only one of 2 dams that are in this whole area, it's got a lot of activity with large mammals like buffaloes and elephants. So it's a really cool place to hang out. It's a nice place to spend a morning or an afternoon. Good place to listen for or bird calls. I just spent a whole week birding with some phenomenal birders in the mountains nearby. And that was so eye-opening because it makes you realize just how many bird species there are. And so I'm in a bit of a bird mode right now. So sitting at this dam now, just listening to what little feathered friends might be around us. And we'll probably leave this dam soon though, because we spent a bit of time here now. The elephants came down and drank, but I've been away for a couple of weeks now, so I'd like to explore what else is around Pride Lands. It always changes so frequently because let's keep moving. Well, it changes a lot because the elephants are always like breaking down trees and engineering the place. So let's see what we can find. I see some impalas there. They were doing a little bit of calling a moment ago, the impalas, grunting and growling at each other. I don't think it was anything that was particularly disturbing them. I think it's just a lot of young males have now had to join up into the herds, the bachelor groups, because now the females have youngsters. It means that the mothers are no longer tolerating the young males around. It'll be interesting to see what's happening with the bachelor groups. Maybe there's some little bit of arguments, let's say. There was a lot of rain as well recently. About 55 millimeters of rain. I don't know how much that is in inches, but what is that? Maybe almost 2 inches of rain fell on Pride Lands a little while ago. So there also could be lots of little mud wallows and pools around. I could also have a look for some little birdies. Let's take a drive onto Marula Lane. Oh, and I see a huge herd of impala with lots of little lambs. By now, most of the impalas have given birth, which is super cool. It's always nice to see these tiny little cute lambs. Let's stop just over here so we don't disturb them too much. Oh, and there you go, there's a tree down on the road. That's new. So when a tree is down like that, elephants have pushed it over. And what's likely to happen is that all the impalas are going to go and investigate that tree. It's probably got some beautiful fresh green leaves that they wouldn't have been able to reach otherwise, and they're going to take advantage of that. We often see it, and there's one big male impala walking in the middle there. He's probably the father of a fair few of these little youngsters. Imagine having like 100 children. Oh, and there's something really cool there, Seb. Can you just go down a little bit? There's an oxpecker that's dust bathing. Oh, it's just flown up now. It just flew up onto the back of that one impala. So it was just doing a bit of dust bathing. It was scratching its body in the dirt, picking up some dust to get rid of the oils that accumulate in its feathers. And now sitting on the back of the impala, hitching a ride on this relatively chilly day. It looks like a young oxpecker. Hasn't got a bright red bill. Got a kind of drab, greyish bill. Ooh, that impala still looks very pregnant. She hasn't given birth yet. You see that one there? She's actually walking in a very slow manner with her legs spread quite wide. I think she still has to give birth, and it's probably going to happen very, very soon because I see her udders are also full of milk just underneath her tail there. So there's at least a couple of mothers that are still waiting to give birth. There might actually be 2 there which are still quite pregnant. That's good to see. It means there's still lots more impala lambs to come. Right, what we're going to do is we're going to watch these impalas as they move off down the road. I'm going to send you some beautiful birds at a dam.
So we've got a beautiful bird in the shot for you, a nice pair, in fact. They're known as black-winged stilts. And literally stilts because they have the longest legs in proportion to body size of any bird. And they are incredibly beautiful. There's nice little red legs, but you can see a really, really long beak. And they forage mostly by what's called tactile. So they forage by moving their beak side to side through the water and then picking up any movement in the water. It's sort of a wide variety within their diet. It'll be tadpoles, small little fish, crustaceans, all sorts of small things. As that one's moving away from us feeding, I did also just read that they actually forage both day and night, which most people would think, oh, when does it have some downtime? But there's plenty of time to sort of stand there. You can see the feeding technique. So plenty of time to sort of stand and rest. And there's two Namacra doves and then a whole sort of swarm of, what looks like a swarm, but the brown-veined white butterflies also just grabbing their drink. Those Namacra doves, both of them are male, with that sort of black bib and little red beak. Oh, I can hear in the background a pearl-spotted owlet calling, so maybe we can go in search of that one shortly. And what else have we got on the water there? Oh, there's a dab chick on the water there, which also good birding this afternoon. Oh. Sugar Pits is asking the question, where do they lay their eggs? So it'll be a little nest on the side of the water, but they either breed solitarily or loosely colonial. And yeah, it'll just be a little nest. I'm trying to see exactly here, just on the edge of the water, really. I'm trying to see how many.
Sorry about that. What is happening to Tswalu? Come back to us, Tswalu. I don't think it's going to settle. I'm looking for insects. That's what you've caught me doing, looking for insects and actually thinking about insects. But I think the ambient temperatures could just be a little bit low for the butterflies to be fluttering. Or possibly not. I mean, it's not cold. But if they're not solar powered enough, just like reptiles, and have not got enough energy in their system, they're immobile. They're rendered completely immobile. They can't move, even if they wanted to. And that's the danger. They're not able to escape predators if they really, really have not got enough energy. I see you, butterfly. Aha! Are you ready, Johan? Okay. At about 3 o'clock, I'll direct you. I don't know what species we have, but I do know that it's stationary. So, around about here. And the challenge begins. How do I describe this to you? Go down slightly. And try zooming in here. I can see it with my naked eye. I'm just struggling to direct my cameraman. There you go. I think it's right there. It's just not in focus. Hey, we have a butterfly. Would you look at that? I don't think I'm going to be... Oh, wait. I think we actually can get an ID. Let's see if we can all ID this together. I'm getting my butterfly ID kit out. Here we go. It's one of the smaller ones. Orange in color. I don't think I have this on my list. Any of you butterfly ID experts, you know who I'm talking to. Help me out. Send it in. #WildEarth. I used to be quite good at this. But it's a very, very small one. Now, generally, when you look at the size of a butterfly, it sort of directly correlates to their lifespan. So normally the smaller species will have a much shorter lifespan than the larger species. So the blues, for example, are a group of butterflies that really don't tend to live that long. They have a very short life and they're very small. They're the smallest of all. And the larger butterflies, like the citrus swallowtail, they tend to just live a little bit longer. But really, all butterflies don't tend to live longer than a year. They have short lifespans. It's the adult phase. It goes through many different stages, and their main purpose is to reproduce. Taylor, you're asking what is the life cycle of a butterfly? Now, with butterflies, they start off as eggs. So the female butterfly will lay eggs, and then when they hatch into a caterpillar. As you know, the sort of bag-like jelly-filled thing that crawls along the ground. And then they undergo a complete transformation. And they form a chrysalis, not a cocoon when you're referring to butterflies, it's a chrysalis. And they basically melt, if you like. They liquefy. Their entire body melts down, but there's specialized cells there that retain the genetic information and the structure that they can then rebuild inside the chrysalis in order to become a butterfly. It's a complete transformation. So they go into a pupal stage, that's what you call the pupal stage, and then they transform into the butterfly, and the butterfly is the adult stage. So basically, once a caterpillar is completely disintegrated inside the chrysalis, all of its tissues will just liquefy, apart from these specialized cells. And these specialized cells are called imaginal discs. And these are basically the cells that will tell it how to rebuild into a butterfly. And what they do is they use the protein-rich soup that's basically all of the tissue of the caterpillar liquefied. It becomes a protein-rich soup that they actually use to fuel the cell division that's needed to sort of build up a butterfly. It's not an easy process. You've got to form the wings, the antenna, the legs, the eyes, genitalia. Got to form all of that through cell division and build up an adult butterfly. But these imaginal cells are present in the caterpillar and they don't liquefy, they don't melt down. It's all the surrounding tissue that melts down. And that's how you end up with an adult. But depending on the species, to be perfectly honest, some caterpillars actually, their muscles and various different sections of the central nervous system are preserved from the caterpillar stage, and then as it goes into the adult butterfly stage. So it doesn't always just liquefy. It's not just always the imaginal cells that are present. And how does it liquefy? Well, a caterpillar basically digests itself, which is a really bizarre phenomenon. It uses really special enzymes that it releases, which dissolves all of its own tissues. So when it's in the chrysalis and it's ready to undergo that wonderful metamorphosis, that transformation, it basically liquefies itself. So it releases the enzymes which break down all of the body, the tissue, into liquid. Interesting. So if you catch the chrysalis at the right time, you can actually slice it open and caterpillar soup would ooze out. Yes. Caterpillar soup. I said it. So, IDs, I'm looking forward to hearing them because I seem to have lost a magic touch. But for now, we're going to send you across to Andrew.
Thanks, Lauren. So what you see here, this poor bull or male Impala, what he's got there, it looks like he's getting rotated by these two oxpecker, and is what two oxpeckers doing there is trying to get the food out of the animal, which, as you can see how they're sticking their beak into this thick hair of the skin. By doing that, we're able to pick any parasite to feed on. Looks like only one Impala, could be more around here, but this is also one of the way of survive. Single Impala have birds like these that they're able to help him out if there is an approach. He does. He spends a lot of time watching than feeding. And these type of the male, these one actually started to lose their fight during the rioting season, and they haven't decided to join the whole group of bachelor herd. Sometimes they decide to be alone or two, sometimes depend. When now there's no such a strict procedure on them, where the dominant male on high rim, he's more likely to be polite enough to welcome any of these males returning back to their high rim, because there is no business happening right now. All females have pregnancy, and then some of them have already dropped their babies. But his job is to make sure that they know that he's a dominant, and he will understand that dominant sometimes can change, especially during the course of the mating, where male finally lose control or he actually lose weight. The challenge is out there where these male are just standing by to take over any possible chances that happened, that male lost a fight, and new male get into the high rim, carrying on with the reproduction. You can see these birds actually very busy. Now it looks like he's urinating, but it's the only time they're very interested to go under the tail to pick up any of the ticks. Some parts are very sensitive. Sometimes you will see, every time these animals not allowing these birds to go into those parts, because these very sharpening beak they got can sometimes penetrate through to very much sensitive part of this animal's body. But animals like these impalas individually, they have very much useful tooth they have, and they have low bottom teeth and a low jaw, and side of these teeth are very loose, but they don't really fall off. They're still holding up with this strong muscle they got, and then what the main reason for that, when they groom one another, they don't hurt one another. So Eddie, you want to know how impalas communicate? So they make sound. A lot of time the sound they make, these are females with their babies. All you hear looks like sounded like you heard a whole bunch of warthogs trying to, low contact, far distances. So they make quite a lot of sound. Sometimes the female trying to get around their babies if they ever separate away from their baby. Or male, he would do kind of like a rough sound when these come to a status of displaying their dominate in the area, where they do this through their throat, and it comes out hard, like somebody's sawing off the very rough wood, dry wood, using their hand as sword. So beautiful. So he trusts, but many times when you stop with these animals, especially if there is an individual animal, they're all aware of what could be around, maybe watching them, or you could be maybe watching something else that they don't know about. So maybe what is checking us out is that it's all about knowing what is going on around us. What now that comes an end, that we build kind of relationship with this animal where they don't really threaten with the car. It's same way you got a leopard in an area where they're useful. Sometimes you follow them, you will witness how they move. When you stop the engine, they also freeze, stop, and because they use engine noises to hunt. And the wind is picking up right now, so it's probably gonna move away or slowly. So the rest of the herd could be that they're nearby here, not far away, or it happened sometime during the course of the day. They've been maybe chased off or somehow separated. No need for them to be in a group. There's no so much business except for that safety situation there. So they can sometimes separate apart from one another, and they will be able to rejoin again. So you found out the other member is not far, or we in this fire break, where we just can't see what is on the other side because of the bushes. Maybe there is more around close by, but you always usually looking at us. Maybe it's because of these dwarf mongoose. Simon, I don't know if you can pan your camera to the mound over here. There's a visual of the dwarf mongoose right on top. It's probably one of those that maybe you heard, that male, that's why he's looking at us so much. And then I saw one of the glimpse of, I think it's a second male Impala that is heading in that one we were looking at. So there is a second one there. So this is a good result. That the question now is that probably maybe all of or more of them are here. Impala, they're one of the animals they don't trust very much. That's why they're in a medium source food around here, where everybody can prey on them. For them, they have to make sure any movement in the bush they see, they have to understand what is going on. So I'm going to go back to the mongoose again and see what they're doing. Looks like a whole mongoose are back into this mound over here. Look at them right on top. This mound over here, since we got here, was not even a single dwarf mongoose. So they're busy going in. Maybe it is one of these mounds that has actually been chosen by this creature to sleep on or overnight tonight. Since they are diurnal animals, they only move during the day. Sticking their heads out there. Wherever they are, in a mound that they occupied, it has to be no snake around there because they're capable of killing snakes. So wherever they are, it's trusted that cannot be a snake around these guys. They can attack in such a group like these. Sometimes they can get around up to 18, maybe possible 20 member in group. Where that works easy for them, they can surround or corner mamba or cobra, any snake, except for this huge python that we have around here. If it's big enough, then we're just gonna let it go. So it's still quite a day for them, still a light enough. So for safety, it's always very important to stay right on the entrance, making sure it's safe for them to be there. And then for the morning when they move out again, all they do is that they have to make sure it's safe. Paula, so what they eat. So they eat pretty much insect and vertebrate, also they eat beetles, those type of scorpions, and they'll eat grasshoppers. So this is what they eat, the beetle most. They have very strong jaw that they can able to crunch one of these ground beetles out here. And see, this was one that was trying to scratch the ground, but below the mound can't get there. So they use this very much sharpening claw of them to dig wherever they can, get the size of a cricket and eat them. Possible feed on snake. If they kill snake, they kill it and feed on that. So it's amazing that they're not actually, if small prey they got, they don't actually cooperate in feeding on that. So each one would have its own. You see, sometimes they will fight over a little scorpion or the beetles. So this mound that you see they're at right now has been old enough for them to use that. You see a lot of entrance hole that's showing up. It's because it's not actually active or used anymore by these termite creatures. And over the years, the mound has been washed off. And then inside, it's where you started to see a little bit of these holes. So which means all of the mound that we see around there, inside there like these, a lot of colony entrance during active of these creatures, termite. They use those to visit the storage of food and the queen and that. I'll take a moment of silence, just listen to the birds. That's why this creature also staring around so much. Jolly, no, you want to know if I've seen mongoose attacked by predators? I seen her actually fight. It was not this species, but it was a black tip mongoose or slender tail mongoose. Those one they actually move solitary, never in a group, or usually two, pair for two. They only when they mate up and reproduction take place. Otherwise, they're very solitary, those one. And then there was a fight. This was a while ago, and that fight takes place for a long time. Eventually, each one member just move off, mamba move off, and that mongoose move off. So, yeah, that one I saw once. But it's individual mongoose like that is very much technique of doing fighting with a snake, which is snakes are venomous. And all they do, they have to make sure they don't get anything on their part being attached to any of these fangs. They make sure they hold the top palate of the mouth of a snake, and then the snake won't have any chance to strike back or do any bite on that. So I haven't actually physically seen these guys fight against the snake. Not yet. But in the wild, it's actually so much the wild can offer. Sometimes you see something that you haven't ever heard of it, these animals do. So I'm waiting to see one of those fights that take place one day while I'm there watching. So it looks like it's actually a big group of these mongoose here. Some of them still haven't arrived in this mound. So these one are the first to arrive in this mound, and then I want to make sure, check in there if it's okay for them to sleep over a night. But if there's a chance there's a snake in there, then of course you already see an air of a movement, and it's very strange. So I'm going to leave this mongoose. See, I'm going to carry on. I haven't actually got any track of any leopard around here yet, but I'm still taking my own chances to see if there's a possible of one. So while I'm doing that, I'm going to be linking you back to Lauren again.
We have some branches for you. I'm going to go forward, Johan. We did have a beautiful view of a woodland kingfisher. I'm going to move the car. And it's moved. I said, birds don't normally stay. And lo and behold, they don't. They're displaying. I think it's 2 males. Woodland kingfishers are very, very difficult to... Oh, we've got elephants and hippos. Oh my goodness, everybody's here. We've got the woodlands and the yellow-billed. This is where the party's at. We just need a leopard. Okay, what shall we talk about first? Shall we go for the woodlands? Because that's what we tried to get. The noisiest bird in the bush. Oh, displaying. Can you hear another male and you don't like it? The lady should be yours, huh? I have no idea if it's male or female. The sexies are very alike. But they do display. They open their wings, and it's a sort of territorial display, if you like. But more exciting, we do have... Oh, took a bath. Johan, too slow. The yellow-billed are also hunting. Look, they're using that incredible ice cream cone beak. Look. Now, they don't need to worry about displaying. They have each other. They're monogamous. Woodland kingfishers are not. Now, I think I'm just going to move forward, Johan, so that we can try and get a view of the storks and the elephants together. There we go. Maybe up on the dam wall is the right way to go. And there's a huge bloat of hippos. Okay. Can you work with this? I don't know if I parked very well, but we can see the elephants. I'm sure the storks are not going anywhere. This must be another herd. I don't know. I think they're all keen to drink. They're definitely not having a pool party, Jack. I just think today is not a pool party kind of day.
Rickon?
Oh, look at them all. What are they doing just over to the left there? What are they doing? I think they were all just rolling in the mud there. Now, Peter, you're asking if storks are related to flamingos. And yes, they are. They are closely related to flamingos. You can sort of tell that by the body shape and the legs. They're very closely related. I'm just watching carefully where the elephants are going to go to make sure I don't block their path. The youngsters are so clumsy. It takes them a long time to be strong on their feet and to be able to utilize that trunk properly. Oh, the storks are right in front. You see that? That adult's watching them. Sometimes elephants will chase birds. One stork gave up. I'm going to the other side of this jam. I don't like these big animals. It's shaking his head at the stork. It's still going. I thought it was going to chase it. Let's just watch and see if it's going to walk away. Oh, nasty stork. Oh, no, that one's going to go. Look. And that stork is not bothered at all. It's still fishing. But the elephant's very bothered. Why are you bothered? Wow, it seems to be an elephant kind of day today. We've been very lucky. And now we're going to send you across to Mike with his elephants.
It certainly is. As you can see, we've got another group of elephants that are busy. Well, they were crossing this road here and feeding amongst this little rocky kopje. Nice big herd of elephants with lots of youngsters, and these are a couple of males that are following the group. Very nice to see them climbing on these rocky areas, getting to the vegetation that's otherwise hidden from most of the antelope species, because the rocks there are not easy for herbivores like impalas to climb up and feed. It's very uncomfortable for them, especially if they get their ankles caught in between the rocks. They can hurt themselves. But with the elephant's big, fleshy, padded feet, they can climb over these rocks and get to some of this vegetation, which is really, really nutritious. A lot of it is things like wild raisins. There's lots of grass, and there's a few succulents as well, like mother-in-law's tongue and all sorts of wild grapes as well. So it's really, really good for them. Lots of nice, tasty things that they can get to. This elephant here is a male, but it's got a very long, thin set of tusks, which is quite unusual. Normally, when an elephant reaches that sort of size, it's not very big, probably early 20s, the tusks start to get a bit thicker. That one's tusks are still nice and thin. As you can see, all of these elephants here actually look like young males. I know there were some younger ones that passed earlier, and these are probably a group of young males that are trailing the herd. Benjamin, I couldn't quite hear your question. It's either what do elephants' feet look like or elephants' teeth. I'd love to answer you, but just maybe ask me that question one more time, please. Elephants' feet are easy to see. Their teeth, however, goodness. Teeth, aha. Okay, so the elephant's teeth, as you can see, some of the elephant's teeth right there, those are modified incisors. So the sharp teeth that we have in the front of our mouth, those are incisors, and elephants' incisors are modified into these very long extruding tusks, which they use for defense, which they use for stripping bark off trees and for breaking branches and all sorts of things. And then the other teeth that they have are molars, which are the teeth on the side of our mouths that they use to crunch and grind up these plants. So you'll see what they do is they take the branch and they put it in their mouth and they chew it with the side of their mouth. Now, we have individual teeth. I can't remember if it's 32 or 36 teeth, but elephants have just one long set of teeth on the top and bottom of each jaw that slowly moves forward and falls out their mouth as it breaks off, and then a slightly larger set of teeth comes behind them. And they only have a finite number of sets of teeth, which once they all break and fall out, the elephant won't be able to eat anymore. So it's quite important that they eat as soft material as they can find. because, of course, when the teeth are broken, they can't eat. So you'll find elephants that have a diet, like in the Okavango Delta, of lots of swampy, soft grass. They live to like 65, maybe older even. There's the elephants that live in, how can I say, in this kind of bush-veld environment that have to eat like broken branches and dry twigs and stuff during winter. They tend to break their teeth earlier, and so they only live to 55, let's say, or maybe even a bit younger. All depends on what they eat. So really, really important. And they get wider as they get older, the elephant's teeth. So young elephants will have thin teeth that make very small sticks and branches in their dung. And as an elephant gets older, because they've got bigger, wider teeth, you find that the bits of grass and tree trunks and sticks and things are a lot bigger as well. See, most of the elephants are now moving off into the distance there. Can't see if there's any closer to us. So we might do the same and try see if we can get a slightly better view of them. But in the meantime, I think Lauren probably does have a better view of them. So let's send you over to her.
We have a big bull walking along the dam wall. Isn't he beautiful? He's huge. Now don't worry, we're not on the road. We're pulled off to the side so we can walk right. Oh, that's Andrew. He can walk right past us. You know, the gentleman, we normally use that term when it's a bull above 40 years. They have I want to say an aura about them, but I know that's not very scientifically rigorous. Oh, look at that. Playing with a younger one, a younger bull. Sorry, I must show you this other one's tail. Oh, what happened to your tail, huh? But yes, the gentlemen have a certain energy about them. You can just feel it when they go past, that they're older, they're calmer in the way they walk and the way they move. Just a general ambience that they give off. You can tell that they're much older. But of course, you can see that through size. But there's definitely there's something else that I can't quite put my finger on. That you just know you're in the presence of a gentleman, an older bull who's relaxed. He's gone through the boisterous, crazy, testosterone-filled years. Of course, he's still got testosterone. He knows how to handle must. He knows how to handle younger bulls. He knows how to handle the cows. He's relaxed, he's older, he's got his pipe and his slippers, and he's just quite happy chilling in the bush. I think I did a really horrible job of describing that there, but there's definitely something you feel when the bull's a lot older, when it's a younger bull and he's still going through the must and all the energy and the testosterone pumping through his veins, and the temporal glands are clearly throbbing at the side of his head. He has a very, very different energy. I think we've lost our elephants now. I think they have moved off. But we have still got our hunting storks going strong. Can you repeat that one more time, Gwen? Little Piggy, you're asking about the lifespan of both male and female elephants. And as a sort of rule of thumb, of course not always the case, but especially in mammals, and lots of other classifications of animals too, that females outlive the males. And the reason being is males are well known to fight. They battle. They tusk one another. They clash, head-on collisions. So elephants can live up to about 60, 70 years, and that's normally death by the wearing down of the teeth than anything else, but they can, of course, die through disease or battle. But generally speaking, females outlive the males. They've got protection in the herd. They're a lot more gentle in their lifestyle. Of course, they go through the process of having offspring and giving birth. But generally speaking, they don't fight like males. They don't battle. They don't collide with one another. There's a lot less aggression. And for that reason, the cows are said to live a little bit longer in the bulls. But I think for elephants, it's very similar, due to the sort of fact that when they do become a gentleman, just like what I was just referring to, they're a lot calmer. They stop fighting. They avoid battles. They take on young males, take them in, and sort of teach them how to be, well, gentlemen. And the young males normally offer the older bull protection. So it's quite common to see what we say a gentleman, to be in the company of younger bulls and to see them sort of hanging out together, shall we say. It's a win-win situation. Look at how still. I think this stork's going to hunt. Oh, nope. I thought he was going to catch something there. But no such luck, so it's time to keep fishing. So I've lost my elephant, but it looks like Andrew is still with his.
Thanks, Lauren. So yeah, we got an elephant here again as well. And they're busy crossing into Torchwood area. Is that the property where we left the lioness moving in this morning? It's actually a decent herd over here. Some of them already crossed over. Here's something, when you're in a low field like this, the growth take place immediately, and even the elephants are way too bigger. Quite easy for them to disappear. She's sweating this temporal gland. As you can see, the secretion in there. This is what happens. So the difference now between these African elephants and Indian elephants. So Indian elephant, the one, most especially female, they won't have these temporal glands. Only male have them. But also those one out there, they have very small ears, where these, they have huge ears. Fully grown male, the ears can be anything from 5 feet long, top to the bottom. Away quite long. So I'm going to try reverse, because it looks like we still have a gap to able to keep these animals with us still. So it looks like it's been an elephant afternoon, but not a leopard afternoon. But of course, that bush can offer immediately. So I'm still crossing my finger, maybe today we'll see a leopard still. And I was really hoping, because, they, after the rain, leopards have to, or most cats, they have to be active, moving so much, reactivating their scent. And this is how sometimes you come across them while they're doing that. So I'm going to find a gap here, sneak my nostrils in to see these elephants again. So the herd of elephants out here, average herds of elephants can be started from about 8 to about 18. Sometimes you get possibly 35 or 40 in a herd. So we still got them there, but they're all crossing over these 2 tracks road over here. So each group would have a Magdala, you're right. So it looks like each corner we take already seen quite a few groups over here of these animals. So indeed, but it happens sometimes when they're all together, because this is something to do with the attraction of the food, when the food source is available, and then for them to able to get around or be around, it's a very good chance. But also, but also, when they just vanish away from us, we would look around, not even single sighting that happened for the rest of this portion of the reserve. This is sometimes happen when they switch over. You got a number of these animals sometimes when they forage heading in the same directions, but from the different positions. Eventually you don't have them for maybe 1 day or two until they return back. So wherever they're going is that they haven't been there maybe for the last couple of weeks. Maybe regrowth take place while they're gone. So they do have to give a little bit of a break and then or chance for the growth to take place or regrowth again until they return back there. And this is how they're going to be disappearing, but we still have a little bit of a visual of them moving through. So since they're disappearing like this, then how far elephants can see. So their eyesight, it's not that great like animals, especially at night, like normal animals like Impala, not that sharp. But anything from 700 meters or 900 meters. So that's the average distance they can see. If you're right in the open, depend of what you're wearing. So if you're wearing anything that is palely white, of course they will pick you up clearly. Even anything from about maybe let's say kilometers away, and they can still pick you up. But further than that, not really. So their eyesight is not great, but not bad as the rhino. So I'm gonna leave these animals. They are going into the very thick stuff there, and unless they come out, because we're gonna go to those lines, and they will see near the dam. Hopefully, this direction of these elephants where they're going right now, they will pop out by that direction of the waterhole by Torchwood Dam, and they will be slightly on the eastern side of that. They're busy watching this line to think if it's a gap for us to go there now. So this is where I'm going to be planning to go. Or maybe, you never know, since I'm hoping to find a spotted cat, maybe it's going to happen. Dream will come true one day, so I'm hoping to see a leopard. Since I began this drive, it hasn't been a leopard for me, so it will be very much starter for me seeing a leopard out here. So if it's a leopard that we found in this area, in Torchwood, there's a Thandi that she's occupying this area, but again boundary with her daughter, the Kalamba. But otherwise, if it's a male, then it will be Tingana. Further east, where we're going as well, would be that male beautiful quarantine. Sure. So how do I track the leopard? So usually it's all about finding where they have moved through, and then for that you're able to deduct whether the tracks it's fresh or how old. And then once you know that it's fresh, it's possible that you can stick with that tracks and eventually you find it. But different technique of a tracking leopard. So sometimes if it's too much hot, this is where you would feel very much comfortable of maybe that leopard is actually lying not far away. But if it's a weather like this, where it's cloudy and it's not actually very hot, they would be moving so much of hunting. They have a lot of energy, But at the same time, when they're on their business of reactivating their scent, they'll remove non-stop. But it's good, sometimes you may hear that animal will contact call if you're around and you know where it is exactly. So yeah, this is how we track them. So sound tracks, but also to spot them. If you haven't seen the tracks, it's a chance that you will spot animal straight away without seeing any tracks. So that happens by scanning around a lot, observing where you're going, both sides of the road. The grasses over here is not actually very, very tall that you will miss them. If there is one, then you're able to spot it if it's not under a thicket. So yeah, this is how we track them. But anyway, it's a very great area of a leopard, but they can be sometimes very scarce to be seen because of the movement they do. They don't stick in a group. They are very solitary. Also, they prefer thick area for them to hunt. But once you lost the last sighting of where they were seen, things like that, we have so many other boundaries where the southern boundaries, once they cross over, if it's Cheetah, yes, we can go follow up. If it's anywhere else, then yes, we're only going to hear on the radio that there's a sighting there, but we cannot go if they cross into Manyeleti also, which is the furthest north boundary for us. We won't know much of what they're doing up there. Even though we get an update, we won't going to go. So all I'm hoping is to find our leopards out here, Tandy specifically and Torchwood, and then also if there's a chance of seeing quarantine, which is also very beautiful leopard that I haven't actually seen quarantine since last year, I would say. So, but yeah, he's out there. I heard he's out there. He's occupying Kruger border up north and Beverly Souk, a little bit of that portion there. So this is how he move around, that male. But one day it's going to be a sighting of him, I have a feeling. So, and I'll be so excited. You see leopard that I know for a long time, and they grow up right in front of us, or in front of every one of those guides out there, and some of the viewers out there. But once they come independent, fully grown, all they do, they just vanish, look for their own spot to occupy. For a reason that he moved east to take that area, it was because he wouldn't stick around here. This was his spot, mother's spot that he used to dominate. Garula. So yeah, looks like we get a bit of a going down a little bit. So we're uphill, but going down now. So this is how we're going to be finally checking around for our lines. I heard they were in there. There's somebody there with them, but all I'm waiting just to see if there's a gap for me to go in. And then otherwise we're going to go enjoy that sighting. And it's getting in a time now, probably though it's only 1800. So after that, I don't know, maybe they will start to get mobile. So we'll know where they're going to go from there. There's a chance that they'll maybe push east.
Question, Gemma. Do lions and other predators get food poisoning? Gemma?
Gemma, a lot of time, not now. That's not happening quite often. So a while ago, not the lions, but other cheetah, those vultures, they used to have a problem with food poisoning. Way out there, jackals, those type, and we've seen number go down when they're not in a reserve. And then this is what it usually would happen out there where there is a farming where people farm their sheep and there's stock out there they got, and they wouldn't tolerate any such carnivores to spend time with their own stock, and then to get rid of them or shoot them. They did care, but they didn't know how to, capture them and bring them back to the wild again. This was a while ago, but not now. So our lions, they don't get much of this poisonous food, but if it's anything that takes places in terms of disease, that would be anything they got from, buffalo, which of course buffalo they do carry TB and things like that. It happens if that animal feed on that meat, and then of course they'll get transmitted disease to themselves or get infected. And the results of that you will see that lion will get very skinny, and of course TB is over taking care of that animal or killing it. So we out here, if we ever see any cats that are very skinny, then we know for sure we're gonna report, making sure the vet come out and doubt that animals, take sample, they check out. So we got a conservationist vet, which we always rely on them. They also rely on us because we out here a lot of time. That's us spending time with these animals, knowing their status, healthy and not healthy. So that's what is happening. But of course, back in the days, where before, or some animals, because you got some animal them sometimes they escape away from the reserve. This is when the fence is not electrified or somehow it's weaker, and they do escape from the reserve, and sometimes you find them eat their wild stock out there, which is a cattle, things like that, and they still sometimes get foot-and-mouth diseases, which this cattle may have. But for us to bring that animals, that lions back in the wild again, we're going to check whether that from meat they have out there was whether there was any sickness from that meat. But once we know, we want to bring that cat in the reserve. We're going to quarantine that cat until it's healed properly before we can bring it back to the area. That's probably one that happened. I remember for one of a leopard, I think was a Baucho or someone else who was seen feeding on the dogs that time. And we have to quarantine that animal, that leopard, until it was released back to the wild again. So yeah, thanks everyone. So I'm gonna be taking you back to Lauren with his feeding or her feeding lions while I'm trying to make my way to the also pride of lions, which is the Styx Pride.
We're back to the scene of death, and our young boy here, young sub-adult, is still feeding. He's a hungry boy. And you've got the hooded in the background doing what it normally does and trying to get as close to the carcass as possible, wishing that it has an invisible cloak, and it does not. But it tries, and it tries. There's another hooded in the background there. Oh, I think that could be a juvenile. Are we able to zoom into this one in the back? Get any closer, or is it too far? Yeah, I think it's an immature hooded. You see this sort of tuft of feathers and the hair on the back of the head. It looks like they're wearing a hood, and of course that's where they get their name from. But when they are a juvenile or an immature hooded vulture, the hood's completely dark. It's very, very dark. And then when they get older, it goes completely white. So I think that one in the background is just slowly leaving the immature phase and going into adulthood. Oh, hello, dark mame. Looking wonderful, so I see. Lorraine, yes, vultures are very patient. We're surrounded by them. They'll wait. It must be worth it. They must get the scraps. Sorry, I can't stop laughing at the mess of dark meme. Oh, the hippo's mouth is moving in the background. Oh. It's a little bit creepy. And the rest of the pride are on Torchwood. We're up on Buffelshoek, the Ngala Dam. They still haven't came and joined, and I don't see one hyena. I've been asking on the radio, any missy? Negative. Just so surprised that it hasn't attracted their attention. Of course, hyenas hunt. We witnessed that this morning. I'm not so sure they were successful with that wildebeest calf, but we don't have any proof. That's just my thoughts. But they do hunt, and they do scavenge. But still, they're drawn to smells. It's very hard to resist the delicious aroma of a rotten hippo. There's lots of hyenas on Buffelshoek as well. Individuals that we don't know, individuals that we recognize that are not part of the Djuma clan. So I'm just surprised that I don't see a single missy. Young boy, do you have any room left for more hippo? Oh my goodness, clearly he does. Bottomless pit. And Darkmane's only going to leave once everything is finished. Once the entire carcass is done, then Darkmane will leave. In that moment, right on cue, every single vulture will fly in. Jacob, good question. I'm sure many of you know I have a really heightened sense of smell. I can't smell anything. I'm either accustomed to it or the wind is helping us here. Can you smell, Johan? He's saying no. He even brought a face mask with him, just in case. I think the wind is blowing in our favour towards the carcass. I'm not getting any wafts. Thank goodness, Jacob. Really, the other day, yesterday when I came with Simon, it was awful. It was really awful. It's hard to describe the smell of a carcass, especially a large one that has spent most of his life in the water, to anyone. It's... Now, for any predator, it really is out in the wild. It's a life of feast or famine. You never know when your next meal is going to be. Some predators have to work for it. Like a leopard, they've got to hunt, stalk, ambush, assess, smell, look, listen, constantly. And for leopards are only said to be successful 16% of the time in the Kruger, in the Greater Kruger. 16%. The rest are all fails. They're all just attempts. And therefore, when you do have a food opportunity, like in front of us right now, you've got to feast. You can see the tufts at the very start of his mane going down the side of his face there. Kimmy, I have no idea. I'm not sure there's a time limit. I think Darkmane and this youngster are just going to enjoy this hippo as long as it takes them. If we take a look at Darkmane, he is clearly bulging. Look at that tummy. But there's definitely room for more in that belly, I'll tell you. So as soon as there's a little bit of space, get up, keep eating, go back to sleep, get up, keep eating. You've got to guard it. They are both more than aware that the vultures are waiting and hyenas are on the periphery somewhere. So I have no idea how long it's going to take them. I think we're on day 3 or 4 now. Day 3 possibly. And it's a very large animal. They really do gorge themselves until they're full, at full capacity. A fully grown lion can eat up to about 20% of its own body weight. The stomach can stretch, just like mine actually, can stretch very far. And again, it's due to the lifestyle of feast or famine. It's how they survive out here. And although it looks very gluttonous and greedy to us, it's survival for them. That vulture is not giving up. Another hooded. Interestingly, I'm just going to get my binos out. All the vultures that are on the embankment here are now the hooded. Oh, there's a juvenile. Just if you go to the left, it's got something. Just behind the lion. Oh, it just flew off, I think. Oh, it just flew off. But still, the one on the left is a juvenile. You see how dark its hood is? Just on the left here, Johan. On the left. There's just one up here. Yeah. Can't really see it now, but it's got a really, really dark hood. And that's a youngster, a young hooded vulture. There's another one that's very, very dark, which means it must be even younger. And it just had something in its mouth. I wonder if it got lucky with this scrap of hippo. You see how dark the hood is? That's how you know it's a youngster. But yes, they're all hooded vultures that left. All the whitebacks have gone up into the trees, and I wonder if it's because they're just getting ready to settle for the night. They're heavy birds, they need a sturdy branch. They can't do with little thin twig. And they need a good sturdy branch and a sturdy tree to support their weight, and they can stay there for the night. Normally they wait until the morning before they start flying again and riding the thermals. So I wonder if all our whitebacks are now on trees. And it's only the hooded that are left on the ground. The hoodies are smaller and lighter. Wow, that young boy is really, really feasting. I wonder if the rest of the pride will join them. Maybe they don't like hippo. sometimes it's nice to just sit and listen to the sounds around the waterhole. Vultures are such funny looking birds. I think they're incredible. They have a terrible reputation due to that scavenging, and I use that loosely. It has such negative connotations, but in fact it's so necessary. It's an ecosystem essential service that they are providing by cleaning up the ecosystem. If both hyenas and vultures and any other scavengers didn't scavenge and didn't provide that essential service, there would be rotten carcasses everywhere. Now, not only would that be extremely unpleasant for a game drive, but disease, pathogens, all sorts of things would be released into the environment, as well as odours, and it just become a very unhygienic place if the lions finish and just leave a carcass. And that's exactly why you have scavengers. I like to think of them as ecosystem heroes. And they clean up. They do the job that no one else wants to do, and it's fundamental. It's such importance, and yet many people think of it so negatively. Someone's got to crunch through the bones. Someone's got to clean up. And it just so happens to be that it's the hyenas and vultures that have the sort of most well-known reputation for doing so. Other animals scavenge. Jackals. Look at them just watching him. Marie, hyenas love everything. I do not know why the hyenas are not here. They either haven't picked up on the odour, and I don't know how that's possible. They haven't sort of tracked down the scent. Or maybe they're busy elsewhere. I really don't know. Normally when there's a large carcass like this, you see the hyenas. Maybe there's a few hyenas to the other side of the dam that we just can't see past the thicket. But no, I think they like hippo, Marie. Oh yes, I've seen hyenas eat hippo before. At Chitwa Dam. I'm not sure why they're not here. They wouldn't come too close when the lions are here, especially if it's just one lone hyena. But you would normally see them on the periphery. Now, I love collective nouns. They have no place in science, but I still love them. You can get very creative. And I think vultures is very high up there on the creativity spectrum, because there's 3 different terms that you use. So, a kettle, do not know where that comes from. A kettle refers to vultures in flight. So when you see them flying round in the thermals, like we saw them this morning, you'll say that's a kettle of vultures. Obviously a collective noun, more than one. Now, when you see them just resting on the ground, or in trees, which is what the hooded and the whitebacks are doing right now, you'll refer to them as a committee of vultures. You can also say venue, but I don't like that. A committee of vultures. Now, when you see vultures that are feeding in the middle of a feeding frenzy, which is exactly what would happen if these 2 lions... Oh! Just giving them were they getting too close? I think they were getting too close. They all flew back only by about a meter. They're not that scared. But yes, if you see them feeding, it's called a wake. So you'll say that's a wake of vultures. So it's either kettle, committee, or wake, depending on what they're doing. Fascinating. Vultures have a very unique feature in that they have a crop. So there's quite a few sort of different species of birds that have that. And it's a pocket of their esophagus, basically, that sticks out. You can sometimes see it. I wonder if you can see it on any of these ones. Just getting my binos out. I think the best one would be the furthest one on the right, Johan, but I'm not sure if you can see the crop, but we'll take a look. And it normally bulges out. And it is already part of the esophagus, but it's a little pocket, if you like, and they can actually store food in this little crop. So once they're feeding and they're a little bit full, they can continue to pile on the food. This is a juvenile in their crop. And it's almost like a storage sock. We're going to go with storage sock. And because they are scavengers and they have that scavenging lifestyle, food is not guaranteed. Again, feast or famine on a daily basis. So they can actually fill their crops, and I think it is depending on the species, but on average, vultures can fill their crops in a really short time frame, around 2 minutes, and their crop, their storage sock, is completely full. And they can hold up to 1.5 kilograms of carrion. Ugh. So when they're eating and they're full, they can just put an extra 1.5 kilograms into their crop. Or maybe if they've not got time to even swallow it properly because there's a predator incoming, there's a young sub-adult lion there coming to chase them away, they can just shove it in their crop for later. It's not digested in here, it's not in the stomach, it's in their throat, if you like. It's nowhere near the stomach, which means it remains undigested. And if they're really, really threatened, so say we've got a vulture that's just filled up his crop and it's a little bit heavier. It's got an extra 1.5 kg on its body weight and it needs to fly and needs to get out of there. There's a big angry male lion coming. They can't actually regurgitate. They'll just completely empty their storage sock and it makes them a little bit lighter so that they can fly and leave. And of course it loses out on a whole banked meal. That's not the way you want to go if you're a vulture. So I think I got a little bit sidetracked from the original question. Gwyn will remind me of the question, I'm sorry. I got very into the crop there. That's a fantastic adaptation for the scavenging lifestyle. Oh, there we go. How long? So again, they will just survive as a lifestyle of feast and famine. Can't stress that enough. They don't know when their next meal will be, and that's why all these vultures are waiting. If they had another meal to go to, they would be there. But they know that this is the best bet. There's a dead hippo. The lions are going to give up at some point, and they can swoop on in. And that's going to give them sort of far more of a guarantee of meat than any other scenario. So they can go a long time without eating, and they can also store that crop, which they can then digest at a later date. Can also feed their young from their crop. So they put it in that storage sock, and then when they go back to the nest, they can regurgitate it. It's a very safe way of transporting food, actually. And I believe the mountain-dwelling bearded vulture, which is also called the lammergeier, you can find it up in Ethiopia, they're actually gorgeous birds, and I believe, I stand to be corrected, but I believe they're the only vulture, or at least bird, that specializes in eating bones and in carrying bones back to the nest for their offspring. Lammergeiers, I think I'm saying that correctly. You can find them in the Simeon Mountains in Ethiopia. That's a great place to see them. But they're also called the bearded vultures, and they really specialize in bones. They've got quite a small distribution in South Africa. They can be found there. They're classified as endangered by the IUCN. If you've never seen one before, Google it. They're fantastic looking vultures and very, very small distribution in South Africa. Not in the low veld. You would find them sort of down in the southeast. And the populations are said to still be decreasing, as with many vultures, and it's due to poisoning from humans. Actually, I'm going to get my bird book out so that I can show you this vulture. Bear with me. I didn't catch that name, but I would really not recommend anybody to eat vulture meat. I'm not sure why anyone would. I haven't heard of anyone eating that in any cultures, but I'm sure if you cook it in the correct way, it's possible. But I really don't recommend it. Okay, here we go. I found it. So I'll point it out for you, Johan. We're going to go for this one down here. This is the bearded vulture. It is a fantastic looking species. It's very large. It's much larger than the hooded vultures, that's for sure. It's also called lammergeier. It's said to have a beard. If you look at that sort of area there, that's where the bearded vulture name comes from. And this is the immature version. So you can see the immature looks very, very different from the adult. But they both have very dark wings, and it's very apparent when they're in flight. So it's quite easy to identify them when they're in flight. There you go, that is the bearded vulture. Bone crusher, the hyena of the vultures. So yes, I'm really not sure about eating vulture meat. But they are actually very hygienic, believe it or not. So although they have this sort of terrible reputation for, well, they're scavengers and they put their heads into carcasses and all sorts of things, if they were not hygienic, their heads covered in all sorts of putrid meat and blood and parasites and maggots and all sorts of things, it would be a complete health hazard to the vulture. They could die, they would get seriously ill, and therefore they really do need to be clean. And vultures bathe regularly because the head is quite a difficult part for them to preen. So they bathe, they'll dunk their heads under the water, and they preen vigorously. They are actually a lot cleaner than you would expect. And again, it's because of their lifestyle. They can't fly around with soiled heads. But still, I wouldn't eat them. Okay, we're going to sit here a little bit longer and see what happens once that sun starts to go down further. But for now, we're going to send you across to Mike and see what he has for you.
Sorry about that. So I didn't actually made it to the Pride of Lions. Where the place is, they're lying, it's in a very much deep, can't feed live in there. So I decided to come back to Gari again, look around. I'm going to continue checking for anything that we're going to find in this area. And yeah, that's the only reason I turn around there. I realize it's not worth it for us heading in there. Then we can't enjoy you with you guys. So I'm going to check around. We're now approaching the twin dams. So I'm going to check around in this area. Hopefully we come across something that is very much interesting for everyone to enjoy. It's been all of a sudden, been very quiet. We've seen a lot of elephants. That was great. But yeah, it's amazing that sometimes it's very difficult to get around it. And then Simon, a kingfisher that's sitting there. It's one of these woodland kingfisher. I'm going to try see if we can get a look at it. Are you okay, Simon, there? So we're going to try pen into that. The only thing that is very much interesting about this bird, woodland kingfisher, the beauty of that, it's when it's looking away from you. Slightly down. Oh no, to the left, yeah, there. Sorry about that. So it was far from us, but anyway, it was looking away from us. All you see the beautiful color that it's got. But now it's looking towards us. So they come around this year and they breed around here, which most this time they'll also be breeding as well. And what attracts them to visit this time of year, it's all about food-wise, where they don't actually feed on fish. There are kingfishers, but not all other species of these feed on fishes. Quite a few of them do. But these they feed on land where the grasshoppers or beetles or dive into the water. Now it's getting back into the different position. Now you can see the beauty of it. Simon, you got it there. So like I was mentioning, when you ever see the beautiful of this bird, it's also a beautiful bird, but then the whole colorful, it's right on the back of it. So it's busy cleaning its beak. So diving into the water, it's a bathing. And they will do that during the whole day or so whenever they feel like. And for them to get rid also of any parasite fleas that will bite on their skin. They're very noisy as well. They can be very noisy, displaying their territorial, especially the males. It's probably going to go again because it's facing back to that little puddle of water there again. Gone. It's changed its position now. It went back to the difference. Now this is a time it's probably going to look at us. So,
Comment, Monet, what a beautiful bird. I love the color, Monet.
Monet, you're truly right there. I also agree. The colorful bird like this, it's also very nice. And then remind me of every time when we don't have them, they'll return back to where they come from, because they're a migration bird as well. So they don't stick here all year round, but the winter, they won't be around. And they will be going wherever it's green. But when they return back to the places where they can benefit in terms of feeding. When we don't have them, then it will remind me of that lilac-breasted roller as well. That also, it plays very much beautiful, colorful bird as well. where those that don't migrate really. I can hear one calling, but it's out of reach, right on top of the tree. It's actually even very dark there to show you guys, but I can hear one calling out. That lilac-breasted roller. Most of these migration birds, when they make their way back home, so it's not sometimes all direct flight. They follow season to season, so all different places and different rainfall season as well. Some rain here started anything from November and December, which we're at this month right now, where the rain, we're expecting the pouring of rain every now and then. And that's why you see a lot of these coming back. And there is also one of the other grey-hooded kingfisher, which is that very rare to see. But also there's a chance that there's a sighting over here. And all you hear on the radio once it's been seen, everybody will call it sighting, but they're not actually static. And they fly very easily, and then they disappeared like that. And also the pied kingfish as well. There's one, if you see them.
John, what are the different kinds of kingfishers, John?
John, so you want to know the other kinds of different kingfisher. So apart from woodland kingfisher, we got the smallest one, which is a striped kingfisher. Also, it's around this time of year. And then we also have a brown hooded kingfisher as well, grey-headed kingfisher. And mangrove kingfisher, I heard of it, but I haven't actually seen one out here yet. That mangrove kingfisher. And we have those pied kingfisher, but they're mainly seen around the water, and these malachite kingfishers, and as well as the giant kingfishers as well, and the pygmy kingfishers. So it's quite a few that we see around here. But pygmy kingfishers are the one that you normally see around the riverbed.
Vultures at the carcass.
So yeah, I'm going to continue again. I'm going to check the water hole here to them, see if there's anything interesting. Otherwise, let me link you back to Lauren again with a vulture sitting near that carcass.
The scenario's completely changed. Look who's on the carcass. Just a warning, everyone, if you're sensitive, this is not pleasant. Johan's going to slowly zoom in, but if you're squeamish, I would recommend you look away now. This is not a pretty sight, what you're about to see. The hippo is absolutely crawling with maggots. And the hooded vultures are on it, can you believe it? The youngster has got up to have a drink. He's moved off, he's thirsty, and that's why they've swooped in. Look at this. They're like, yes, we've won the lottery. Darkmane is just not bothered. He's just not even moving. He's watching them. But he's too full. He's waiting for the youngster to come back and chase. Oh, see, spoke too soon. Oh, that carcass is something else. They'll eat the maggots too. Packed with protein, moisture. But Jess, I don't think we'll zoom in any more than this. Darkmane, how can you still be hungry? Please, it's my turn to ask a question. Question? From Lauren. Darkmane, how are you still hungry? Nope, no answer. Now remember, hippos have actually got very thin skin, very fine epidermis. It's actually sort of the fat, the blubber, it's not quite blubber, but that layer of fat underneath that makes it look like they've got very thick skin. It's not like an elephant, it's very, very fine skin. And that's why you'll find hippos spend most of their day in the water, to prevent them from dehydration and to protect the skin from the sun, because it's so sensitive to cracking. The skin is said to be up to 7 times more sensitive to dehydration than that of other mammals because it's so thin. It's very rare to find a hippo out the water at the hottest part of the day. Their skin can't handle it. And if there is a case of dehydration or a very hot day in winter when the water bodies are low and not full, you will find that the females will sometimes dribble their saliva over a calf that's not covered in water. If they've got a youngster, if they've got a calf and it's exposed to the sun, it's very, very hot, they'll run their mouth over the youngster and dribble the saliva onto it to try and hydrate the skin again, because the youngster could be fatal for a youngster to have dehydration on a very hot day. The skin would completely crack open. The hooded vultures are just not giving up. They had their moment. Kerry, they will, absolutely. Absolutely eat the maggots. Protein, insects are a fantastic source of protein. They absolutely will eat them. Will not bother the lions. This is one of the worst cases I've seen. We had a buffalo on Gowrie, Maine with the Incohumas, and it was also a similar scenario with lots of maggots, but this scenario is not pleasant. But yeah, they will eat the maggots, 100%. Not intentionally, they won't sort of clean up all the maggots, but they will eat the maggots as they feast on the flesh. Oh, dark mane. We're starting to lose a lot of light here now. The cloud coverage. I think we're in store for some rain tonight, which will relish the land with moisture. The lions rarely chase the vultures with much intention. It's more a case of shoo-shoo now rather than aggression. Paul, great minds think alike. I was just about to go down that track. If they could, they would, but they won't put any effort into it. They are very familiar with vultures' presence at carcasses. I mentioned this earlier, but I'm convinced the vultures follow lions from the air, like aerial stalkers. And if there was an injured one and they were hungry, absolutely, they would. They're opportunistic, they're predators, but they wouldn't necessarily hunt the vultures in this scenario right now. The hippo is far more delicious, and it happens to already be dead. It's almost like a game they play. The hoodied keep trying, the lions keep chasing. It goes on and on. The same with hyenas. When you find hyenas on a carcass and the vultures are surrounding, it's a game of chase. I didn't catch that name, but you're saying unbelievable how much these lions have eaten. Yes, Johan was just saying the same thing. Did those lions really eat that amount of the hippo? Yes, they did. There's 2 of them. Hungry horses. They just keep feeding, resting, feeding, resting. And it's not been too hot today. It's not been uncomfortably hot. And therefore, they probably didn't need to seek shade and wait it out. And they'll feed throughout the night as well. They're primarily nocturnal. It's unbelievable. But then they really won't need to feed for days. Not like Miss Kalamba, who has a kill in every tree. There's not been a single leopard found anywhere today. Rather disappointing. But I'm sure they'll come out tomorrow. Loving just sitting here watching the lions, listening to the bird sounds. Why don't we do that? Why don't I stay silent for a little while and let you enjoy the sounds of the dam? Isn't that just very peaceful? We might have to put our IR light on soon as we're losing light. So for now, we're going to send you across to Andrew with one of my favourite animals.
Thanks, Lauren. Yeah, as we see, there is a spotted hyena now disappearing right on our eye. Crossed the border, southern border, heading south, away from Dam. It was amazing since we left that bird, and we decided to wander around the dam there. And this hyena was not actually stopping, just across the dam and straight heading south. It's probably on its mission to hunt, where now it's a time for such animals where there are carnivore species and there are nocturnal at the same time. for them to able to get mobile, it's so easy, and this is how they would actually get behind the big cats, also leopards, and then scavenge as well. They steal from other members. They can steal from the same species if it's weaker. Also, they can steal from, if they get around 7 hyena, they can win lionesses kill sometimes. And this is how they do. But no, I'm going to carry on since we lost that visual. Hopefully we get another member of hyena that's starting to get mobile in this area. Sorry about that. It was so quick and disappeared. Just the tail. All you see that the very low back and the height front. A well design of that. Height front is for them to be able to succeed on carrying heavy load for way distances back to the den. They're capable of that. And the lower back doesn't actually support much, only to get the move around. But the whole weight is right on the neck and then shoulders. So the only reason they have that, bridge of height front and lower back. And they're very good on trekking. Sometimes everywhere they go, they sniff around on the ground, get to know where the member is. They communicate this time of the day. This is where the sound of all animals travel quite fast or far away, and just to get to know where the other member is. So I'm going to continue now. I'm going to check the treehouse dam in that area to see if we get anything, or around the dam drinking, or possibly that, you never know. This is a position of that the leopard's buoy sometimes she do come in this area and move around quite a lot. She would cross into Djuma, also cross south again. So I'm going to be spending time looking around in the area, put the spotlight around and get ready to see any of the nocturnal animal that will come out in this, because now it's already changed here, it's dark. So it's cool to see what's going to be mobile about once it's dark, and the spotlight will be able to pick that up. Paul, you want to know what is my favorite animal? So I know as a guide, you kind of like, maybe you don't have much of a choice to pick. You all find yourself, all animals are favorite. But myself, I tend to understand Impala a little bit, and then the rest all fine. And that's how I put Impalas forward, just because of the way they do. And they're one of the animals that they cooperate, they love one another in a group, stick one another. All animals individual that in a group, especially Impala, they're medium source, and they find themselves there as a food source for everybody. But at the same time, for them to save their own life. And that's how they look around. Any group, they take turns, feed, and a whole lot of them, they will be checking whoever's coming in, and take turn. Those that will be looking around, at the same time they will be feeding, while those who are feeding, then they will be looking around. So they cooperate in terms of supporting their lives, and they all stay safe. Only the difference is that when the male's involved in the area, pushing them off in and out when there's a rutting season, of course, the male will chase them. And then when that happened, whoever's around to hunt them, and then it has a chance to approach, because they're now freaking out and they don't understand what's going on anymore. And the male wouldn't care so much. He only care about the business that is about to take place, not care about their safety anymore. A lot of time they die during the ride, running, not knowing what they're running for, or they're jumping around trying to get away from the male. And the reason that it's when the male pick up the female that he very much interested on that certain amount of minutes, he would chase that female, because it happened the whole at the same time come on heat in one certain period of the time. So for him to mate sometimes with everyone, he has to pick one, and he chase it down, and this is where you see the whole flush over, jump around, pronking up when in the open area. So I'm going to carry on move while I'm sending you back to Lauren again with her a feeding line.
We are now in IR, so you can see the pictures black and white. There's just not enough ambient light. We've moved a little bit closer, but I can assure you all I am not going any closer than this. For a multitude of reasons, but I'm sure you can guess. I think this visual is more than enough. Now, it's getting really dark and the vultures have all left. They've all gone to perch on the tree. Every single one of them. There's not one vulture on the ground anymore. The sub-adult's now resting a little bit further away. He obviously feels that he can leave the carcass because dark means there. Dark means protecting and hogging the carcass so nothing can come in. But they'll feast on it all night and they don't have to worry about vultures now. Hyenas would be an issue, but not vultures. At least we can't see the maggots so clearly when you're using infrared. And the eye shine, we don't have a single light on in this vehicle, not one. The eye shine's coming from the infrared itself. And it's that tapetum lucidum that's reflecting. There's no spotlights or car lights on, and it's a wonderful thing about infrared. I'm not a fan of spotlighting. I don't like putting them on chameleons or impalas or your nocturnal animals. Highly sensitive eyes. And shining a light on that. It's not fair. I didn't catch that name, but depends on what hyena. Hyenas are everywhere. It's very far from the Djuma clan den, but there's other clans around here. I can assure you there's a lot of hyenas on Buffelshoek. Every time I drive Buffelshoek, we come across hyenas. Sometimes we're not able to get them on camera, but hyenas wander a lot, so they're nocturnal as well. And you'll find once they leave the den, once it's sort of time up with the cubs, Mama gotta eat. They'll leave and they just wander. Hyenas have no real tactic, and that's what I love about them. They just walk. They just pick a direction, or maybe they're following a sound, and they just smell the entire way. They use their nostrils to guide them. They're highly olfactory predators, and they'll just follow the smell. So when you actually analyze the pattern or the route that a hyena has taken, it's very zigzaggy all over the place because they're just following their nostrils. It's slightly different from lions and leopards, and they wander very far at nighttime, kilometre after kilometre after kilometre to find food. So it's not really far in that respect. It would just take, I would think, a hyena to walk to Buffelshoek cut line, and they would be able to smell this. I'm more than sure they would. Those nasal passages can pick up on scents from so far away. They can follow trails that are 3 days old to find a carcass. 3 days old. With success as well. That's their primary sense, their nose. Constantly communicating through chemicals is something we as humans really don't understand. We understand the principles, but not much further than that. Those chemical odors that are containing messages, containing information, and the sort of complex cognitive ability that they must have to interpret those scents, to understand what they mean. Most mammals operate this way through chemical sense, through specialized glands, leaving different odors, marking territory, signaling to males, I'm ready, I'm in estrus. Males trying to keep out other males constantly. And we miss all this. We drive around day by day completely unaware of all the chemical sort of barriers and fences and trails that have been left by all the organisms out here, especially the mammals. Completely oblivious. Sam, good question, and I have no idea. When I came back from leave, this hippo was already dead. Darkmane had pulled it out of the water. It's believed to have died of natural causes. We're not sure. And I really don't know why the Talamati Pride are not here, or why they're not all together. Did they separate and then Darkmane discovered the hippo? Really, really not sure. I'm also asking that question myself because this carcass could provide a lot of food and nutrition, especially for all those sub-adults. It's normal for Darkmane to spend time away from the Talamatis, but I'm not sure why they are not here. And Darkmane's clearly keeping this secret to himself. The visual's not great, I'm afraid, but we really can't go any closer. The infrared light bounces off the first object it sees, so it's not very good for long distance viewing, but it still means we're being completely unintrusive. We're just sitting watching. No lights, no disturbance. So we're going to sit here just a little longer. Now we're going to send you across to Andrew.
Thanks so much, Lauren. So what we're finding is we want to triage them now. I know there's a hippo displaying there on the background, but there is this two scrub hair where they just get mobile now. All they do is that they're going to spend a lot of time at night, move around in and out of this area, and they feed on very short grasses. It's cool that there are a pair of them right now, but sometimes they do separate. One move individually, separate. And then we actually spotted a spotted eagle owl that it couldn't stick around for us. But I'm wondering if it's not far away. Maybe it was actually trying to hunt the same animal that we're looking at right now here. Well, spotted eagle owl can able to take these type of prey down and feed on them. Giant eagle owl also we have around here and also can do that. See, they stand on their 2 feet just like kangaroo, but this is actually how they look around. But they will prefer moon rather than the darkness. Cool, girl. So you want to know they are sighted now, so it's great. And they only notice when you shine at them, sometimes, they reflect back very strong. And then you know that our sight is so strong at night. But, these animals that hunt at night, they use their own technique. We talk about an owl that we just saw now back there. They well designed with a very unique feather on their wings that when they land on their prey species, very silent. And most owls are different than the other birds' feather. And they're very light on actually making noises. So there are many times these type of prey species, they get killed surprisingly, not knowing what would be hunting them at the same time. Oh, probably a couple there. Usually male will be a lot smaller. Females are bigger than a male. And they're easy. Sometimes you can pet them, find a young one, you can put it in your garden. But, they not like a rabbit. Of course, the difference is, it is a difference between these two species, rabbit and scrub hare, where rabbits, when they give birth to a plain skin animal, not a fur or net animal when it's born. With these, when they give birth, the young one is already fluffy hair already in the body. So there's a difference there. And when they move, they don't move like all animals do. They kind of like jump, even when they do slow movement. And they don't move like a leopard or where they don't amble walk really. But they slightly jump a bit. When you see them do that, it looks like maybe they have a problem with their 4 feet. See them take places when they switch forward. They do that, so the hindquarter will actually kind of like up, allowed by these very springy leggies. MJ, what they're the best sense. So, their sense of smell, I don't know if it's great than other animal that we see many times. Maybe it's just because we don't spend much time with them, see how they're getting hunted and things like that. But, they rely on probably hearing and sight as well. And they spend a lot of time on them sniffing around on the ground. But this is how they would locate their grasses, short grasses. But probably they can smell a little bit, but I don't think it's better than all animals that we have around here, where they can smell things from maybe like 500 meters distances or kilometer away if it's the wind blowing. So we can try to pan to the hippo. Our hippo, see what that hippo is doing in there. And I'm going to just put my light, just see where that hippo is. So this is the hippo that is often seen in this water hole here. And it's probably yawning quite a lot, trying to get mobile. So a quick link to a Lauren. Sorry about that. It's been cancelled. So this hippo, it's been actually yawning quite a lot. I think it's something to do with getting ready to get on, move around. It's not actually making quite a lot of noises. And when you usually do that, it's when they have presents that they don't really like the company. And you see them yawn, but also stand on their back leg and the front leg up and they yawn. Sometimes they fall sideways in the water, and you know for sure they doing that kind of like warning displaying there. But this one is more likely to come out while we're here, or he's just gonna go defecate or return back to the water again. We'll see, but this is actually a very good time for them to come out. Spend a lot of time outside of the water. Politely is coming out. Out permanently. A very short leg, and they're not an animal that you would expect them to jump, no. And they run, amble run, but they're very fast in that. Look at this mouth, it's very square, round, square. It's limping, I think. See that defecation taking place, flipping the tail, the poop coming out. You gotta do that facing away from the water. That's how they communicate, scent marking there. When? So you want to know how long do they hippos? So they're all night. They spend times all night outside of the water, and sometimes they can delay coming back to if it's raining, weather's good, and they, depending on how behavior they are, if they would handle the situation when it's a daylight, they even come back later. Sometimes it's already sunrise, but yeah, the whole night. Now is out. It's going to probably return back here to this very water hole around 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning tomorrow. Yeah, but I saw him limp, so it's probably been pushed or step on the wrong place where the holes, or run into very difficult places. Since they can't jump, they have to run, use their specific path they made. And that's why when you out there, if you don't know these guys' pathway, you don't avoid them. You more run over by these guys. When they started to run, if it's too densey, they would only run using their specific route that they may have made. And it's actually quite easy for guides to tell them this is the hippo's pathway, because it's different to most game path. It looks like a car two track, but small car two tracks. That's where they always, when they move out and they use it, in and out. So during the night, it's cool. They would survive the whole night, not a problem. They won't have good sunburn because it's not sunshine. But what will help them, the secret, it's called blood sweat, kind of, where they will sustain their body by secrete those. And that's why when you look at the hippo from way distance, you see the pale skin, pink underneath, or the underbelly, or pretty much ears as well, those type of their body. And they're all shiny, oily because of these secretions. But they do run out of those. If they don't return back to the water, maybe for a day or two, and it's very hot, then they would have a problem. So it looks like it's gone out away from us permanently, and I don't think we'll be able to return right here at the moment. And I'm not sure if it was only one or was there more than one here. But if there is more of them, they would probably do the same. They would probably get mobile and follow him. Usually will be presence of female, because it's always so important for male to dominate. the females in waterhole like this. So it's different or difficult. Difference is that this is actually man-made waterhole where it's not actually big enough to host 2 males at the same time. Where's some area where there's a lot of hippos. You find a whole pod of hippo all just patched in the sand, sun buffing, where each bank you will find individual group were dominated by different male. So I'm going to carry on searching around here, and then I'm going to be linking you to Lauren again.
Look what we have here. I think it's hunting. Again, we're in infrared. We've left the lions. It was a terrible visual. I'm sorry. We couldn't get any closer. Now, I don't know what we have here. It's obviously a lizard, but I don't know the species. Oh, wow. Whoa. Did you see that? Without seeing the colour, I didn't put a spotlight on it. I really couldn't tell you what species. I think it was possibly a skink of some sort. If we could just zoom out, Johan. Oh, tail's moving. We don't have any lights. Oh, there's another one. What is this one here? I don't think it's the same one. How is that possible? It's the same species, though. A very thin tail. Could be a gecko of some sort. Yeah, it's not a skink. I think it's a gecko. Yes, it's definitely not a skink. Skinks they have a much fatter, broader tail. So storage for them. They have a completely different shaped head. It's a gecko. I don't know which species though. Wow. You can see the scales. You can actually see the outline of the reptilian scales. I think it's hunting insects. I'm sure that mound is crawling with all sorts of delicious snacks. Peter, the eyes do look like water drops, don't they? Again, it's just the reflection from the IR light. Quite large eyes for the shape of its head, and that normally tells you that vision is a key sense, one of the primary senses for that individual, if you look at the sort of proportion of the eye to the size of the head. But I think it's listening here, probably smelling as well. You see it closing its eyelids. Wow, what a find. I don't think I've put a gecko on camera before. We, of course, have them all crawling through camp. And Trishala, dearest Trishala, who's a brave woman warrior, is terrified of geckos. I don't quite know why. She doesn't know why, but she's really, really scared of them. If there's a gecko in her bedroom, oh, it's trouble. But if there's a spider, she's fine. I'm the opposite. I could have a room full of geckos and it wouldn't bother me. But if there's a spider, Where are you going, little guy? There's, hunt, live hunt. A very slow hunt. But it was a hunt all the same. Johan, that was our first live hunt together. Are you impressed? He doesn't look very impressed. It was an ambush stalk there. I don't know how long geckos can go without food and water, but... there's an ant. Are you going to lose your life to the jaws of death? No, I don't. Oh! But because they're reptilian, their metabolism is completely different from mammals. Because for mammals, our body heat is generated from metabolic activity. So we have a constant internal temperature. We don't rely on the sun. We enjoy the sun for vitamin D, but we don't need the sun for energy. Reptiles are the opposite, of course. They require the sun for energy. They're ectothermic. They're powered by the ambient temperatures and the ambient rays. And therefore they're not dependent on metabolism to generate heat, and therefore they don't require food as much as mammals do. So I really don't know how long this particular species can go without food, but it's much longer than a mammal would be able to. And because it's so small, they'll be able to fill their tummies regularly. I mean, a gecko will eat every single day, but in winter, going to be a completely different scenario. They're probably going to be hiding. It's going to be colder. There's not going to be this plethora of insects everywhere. But they can survive that. They can survive the drought times, the famine times, because they can just reduce their metabolic activity and save all their energy. Mammals can't do that. Can you just zoom out a little bit, Johan? Something's flickering. I wondered if it was his next meal. Oh, it's just a blade of grass. Sorry. Oh, they're both out. The other ones came out. This termite mound is pumping. Oh, there's the big one. Or is that a frog? No, I think it's the big gecko. Wow. You see? How does he know the camera's on him? Did you see the size difference there? I wonder if these ones are youngsters. What a fantastic way to finish the drive. This is a really unusual sighting. There we go, the big one's back again. They must live inside the small termite mound. You see the size difference? I think it's the same species. We're so lucky that we have IR. We wouldn't be able to see this otherwise. Gorgeous. They've got little pads on their feet, little suction pads, which means they can crawl into any sort of environment, hang upside down. Now everyone has came to that time of night, I'm afraid. It's dark. I'm hungry. And it's time to end the drive. But thank you all for bumbling with us. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you here. Thank you for all your comments and questions, and we shall see you tomorrow. Good night.